Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, how far is this thing gonna go?
On Acid.
He got it, are you kidding?
And streaming live on the Latin app. It all starts right now.
Well, a big pocket of rain has just come through. The weather is better. The crowds are arriving to Sarasota, Florida, Ed Smith Stadium for our first broadcast of the season here on Mass, the Orioles and the Red Sox. We're so delighted to be with you to have baseball again. Kevin Brown, Dave Johnson. It's good to see you again, buddy.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be talking about baseball again. We weren't sure we were going to be here for a while. It was a bit of a touch and go off season, a long, cold, lonely winter, if you will. But the lockout ended a couple of weeks ago. A late start to spring training, so you're going to see some more regulars than you might have early in the year. But in a year where there's a lot of optimism around the big league team and then some folks that are going to make the big league team, we think, for the first time, it's great to see the Orioles back on the air.
Yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be. You know, talking about baseball between the lines, the players, what they did last year, what we're hoping that they can do this year, building on some successes, maybe even some injuries coming back from that. Yeah, it's just a fresh look, and Mike Elias has put together, you know, a young team, a lot of prospects. We're going to see a lot of those prospects come up to the big leagues this year, so I'm excited about the product that we're going to see here, not only this year, but here in the next 2 or 3 years.
And we don't have to talk about CBTs or CBAs anymore for a while. We just going to talk about baseball, and we are going to see some of the Orioles' younger players, those players you've been hearing about for years, the Adley Rutschmans, the Grayson Rodriguez's of the world. We think we're going to see them pretty soon. Tonight, though, is more of an opening day kind of lineup. A lot of regulars in the lineup, including Cedric Mullins, the returning 30-30 player. Bruce Zimmerman is on the mound, and we have baseball next. Time to explore the beaches and islands of Sarasota on Florida's Gulf Coast. Relax and enjoy the sophisticated ambiance of Lido Key, boasting 3 beaches, shopping, and world-class eats. Plus, a stop to St. Armand Circle is a must. Plan your visit now at visitsarasota.com. Thankfully, it's a good night to be in Sarasota. A little bit of a tricky day. There was quite a bit of rain in the afternoon, but 73 degrees, beautiful weather, if not quite full sunshine. A great night for a baseball game, the spring training home of the Orioles. Always a little bit of a wind in spring as well, which could make it fun for the outfielders. And here is the Red Sox starting lineup. Not quite a regular group. Bunch of non-roster players in here. Kike Hernandez, Jaron Duran, maybe the 2 most notables. Plawecki, Shaw, and Refsnyder veterans, and then some younger players at the bottom as the Red Sox did not take their full traveling squad to Sarasota. And it'll be Bruce Zimmerman making the start for the Orioles. Spring debut for him, and Dave Johnson, certainly one of the leading candidates after John Means and Jordan Lyles to be in that Orioles rotation.
I think when you look what Bruce is trying to do, he just wants to come out today and establish himself healthy again. He had some minor quirks with injuries last year, wasn't able to compete as long and as well as he would have liked, but he has shown the ability to be a guy who, when he throws the ball over the plate and changes speeds, he's got the four-pitch repertoire. He's used his fastball a little bit less last year than he had in the previously, and he does have the good changeup. So I think it's a matter of, I always talk about the starting pitchers. They've got to have a good changeup. You look at John Means, what makes him successful, he's got a good changeup. It's just the equalizer. If you can go through a lineup 2 or 3 times, you're going to have that changeup. And I think, again, when we look at Zimmerman, a local product, of course, here from Baltimore, really looking for the opportunity to make his impact this year. And hopefully, again, with this outing, his first one in the spring, just go out, throw the ball over the plate, get through it healthy, and you know, get an opportunity 3 or 4 days from now to get back out there again.
Probably a couple of innings for him today, and here is the Oriole defense around Bruce Zimmerman, and it's not too dissimilar a group maybe from the one we could see opening day.
Yeah, I think when you look at Hayes, Mullins, Santander in the outfield, that could be what we see in Gutierrez, Mateo, Urias at second base. Of course, he's a guy trying to hold that spot. Mountcastle looks like a mainstay there at first base. You got Bo Taylor behind the plate, and he's going to try to guide Zimmerman through here this first spring outing. So you're right, Kevin. I think when you look at some of the infield outfield situation. Maybe that's going to change here and there. There's some battles going on there. There's no doubt about it. But I think you are looking at that starting outfield.
Bo Taylor, who looks a little Austin Winsey behind the plate, our old friend, part of a rotation of catchers that will try to be the backup to Robinson Chirinos opening day. Adley Rutschman still recovering from a minor injury. So it is Taylor behind the dish. It is Kike Hernandez and Bruce Zimmerman. Our first broadcast of the spring starts with ball one. And by the way, it's wonderful to have some brand spanking new graphics for you. That lovely scorebug in the top left of your screen. Very fresh and updated graphics package we have for you in 2022. And there is Zimmerman going off speed. That's what you want to see from Bruce Zimmerman, who had a little bit of trouble with fastball command last year. Great curveball, great slider. Can he add the changeup? Can he command the fastball?
Yeah, and I think when you have the opportunity 1-0 count to feel comfortable on the, really the first batter of the game to throw that changeup, that's a good thing.
Hernandez, part of a strong Red Sox team a season ago. Boston was one of the surprises of the American League. Made it to the American League Championship Series. Lost to the Astros there. One of the few regulars in the Red Sox lineup today. And Zimmerman with a fastball missing to work the count to 3-1.
I think I'm sorry, Kevin. When you can see Bruce's fastball, not a lot of movement there, and it's not overpowering, so that's why he's got to have command of those other pitches.
And for Zimmerman last year, the fastball was one of the hardest hit in the league. 392 average against. The slider and the curveball were both very good. So can Bruce Zimmerman maintain a more consistent fastball this year? Averaged about 91, 92 with it a season ago. He's gone full on Hernandez, and Hernandez has gone full to left field. This one is loud and long, and a Red Sox home run to kick off Bruce Zimmerman's spring.
Yeah, we talked about the changeup. He came back with it. He threw it 3 times in that at bat. And unless you're going to make a quality pitch with it, you can't keep throwing it to the same batter, because then he gets an idea of the feel of the pitch. He sees it coming out of the hand. That was just a real hanging changeup right there. Although 3-2 count, I would have thought he'd have been looking for the fastball. And because that pitch just kind of stayed up a little bit, he was able to drive the ball to the ballpark. I also look at the changeup, Kevin. I think a lot of guys throw their changeups too fast. I think the changeup really needs to, you need to get a good, 12, 13 miles per hour difference. And with Zimmerman's changeup, he's only somewhere around 8 or 9 with it. So if you don't locate it perfectly, it can still get hit hard.
Last year's about 7.5 mile an hour difference. Fastball to change as Jarren Duran fouls one away. Zimmerman, a cameo in the big leagues in 2020. He was in the rotation for basically the first 2.5 months of last season. Saw the numbers earlier. 5.04 ERA, 13 starts. There's a swing and a miss to Duran, beg your pardon.
So you can see he's very smooth. He gets over his front side there. He kind of stiff leg there. I think the delivery is good. It's repeatable, but you have to have that pitcher's feel. There are many times you see guys, they look like they have picture perfect mechanics, but if they don't have that pitcher's feel right at the end of their fingertips to be able to manipulate the ball inside the strike zone and have the ability to maybe just outside the strike zone when they're ahead in the count, well, then they're kind of just throwing up pitches there that in the end they're not really going where they want them to go all the time, and that's a bad thing in the American League East.
And a breaking ball that hung a little bit too much there. Orioles pitching gurus Chris Holt, who's joined in the dugout this season by Darren Holmes. Darren was the bullpen coach last season. He's now the assistant pitching coach, so the Orioles have an extra voice in the dugout pitching wise. Tim Cousins has moved to the bullpen as Zimmerman picks up the strikeout, comes back and gets Duran swinging.
Yeah, you can see the difference in location here. He comes back with a changeup and he gets the ball and it's down and actually cutting away a little bit. which is unusual. And, typically left-handers kind of turn the ball over a little bit, but if he has the ability to go ahead and cut that to the left-handed batters, that becomes a big weapon for the left-handed batters.
Zimmerman a season ago struck out 56, 64 to third. Gets his first of the spring and then fades one away to Kevin Plawecki. Veteran catcher had a decent season last year. 31 years old, Kevin Plawecki.
Another well-located changeup there. So I'm wondering, he's throwing a lot of changeups, so I'm wondering if that's a pitch that he said, look, I got to have this pitch if I'm going to be successful, and I need to throw it a lot and get a feel for it. And, now he's located a couple pretty good ones.
I was talking to Brandon Hyde earlier today, and he said he didn't really have expectations yet for Bruce Zimmerman because spring training started so recently. You get into games so quickly. Bruce hasn't had a chance to pitch in a game yet. Remember a season ago, Bruce was one of the Orioles' most impressive pitchers in spring training. Had that brief call up in 2020, only pitched in a couple of games. Was not necessarily seen as a leading rotation candidate. Remember the years that Keegan Aiken, Dee Kramer had at the end of 2020, but Bruce jumped them all. Ended up as the Orioles' #3 starter a season ago. Ground ball to short here, and Jorge Mateo throws out Plawecki.
Well, yeah, there's no question that this spring training is a lot different than your normal spring training. So some of these guys are going to be taking the mound for their first time and maybe not even throw, whether it's a live BP or in an inter-squad game, which is something that normally you would do before you ever got into a spring game. So, yeah, I mean, he's out there right now. The first time you're throwing a ball in earnest. There's a guy with a bat in his hands in the batter's box from the opposing team, and that's different than any other pitch you'll throw on the side or in BP.
Here's the former and once again Red Sox Travis Shaw. Back with the team as a non-roster invitee after a couple of years away. And Zim hits the bottom of the zone according to the plate umpire Jeremy Riggs for a called strike. 20th pitch of the first inning for Bruce Zimmerman. And another called strike with a breaking ball this time.
Yeah, he gets on top. That's pretty good. A pretty good pitch on the outside part of the plate. You can see Shaw gives up on it, and that ball has some good bite to it going down away from him.
Shaw was able to hold up this time. Those were the strikeout pitches for Zimmerman last year. The slider and the curveball swing and miss rates were very high last season. Only gave up 3 extra base hits on the 2 breaking balls combined. Mainly the fastball and the changeup that got him, but a couple of strikeouts here. Good recovery from Zimmerman after the leadoff homer. Hey, we'll get to see the Orioles swing the bats for the first time. Mullins, Mountcastle, and Mancini. Great night for some chicken tenders. They mostly are great nights for chicken tenders in Sarasota, Florida. Orioles will bat against Nick Pivetta with this lineup. Brandon Hyde's playing more players back-to-back than you might expect early in the spring. Mullins, Mountcastle, Mancini, Santander, Hayes, Urias could be your top 6 at the start of the year, and they will face the Red Sox, Nick Pivetta. But it is an opening day-esque lineup, and Cedric Mullins certainly expected to be the opening day leadoff hitter. Takes ball 1 against the right-hander Pivetta.
Yeah, Pavetta's a guy that will be in the rotation for them. You can see there he made 30 starts for them. And actually had a pretty good year when you start looking at the type of numbers he had, and earned run average, pitching in that ballpark, pitching in the American League East. So he's looking to be a steady force in that rotation to just soak up some innings and be a guy that they can rely on going out there every 5th day.
Pivetta to Mullins, and said with a good eye at a sharp breaking ball. Cedric Mullins, Orioles center fielder, first 30-30 player in Orioles history a season ago. We all remember the year that was, and it began against these very Boston Red Sox, as Mullins had an opening series for the ages and just never stopped hitting. Here is a fly ball to Jaron Duran in left.
You got Duran out there in left field, Hernandez in center, Ref Snyder in right. You got Pinellas at third, Arauz at shortstop, Fitzgerald and Ramos taking care of the right side of the infield, and Plawecki behind the plate. And as you see there, Pivetta on the mound. So, yeah, the Red Sox didn't obviously send their A lineup down to Sarasota, this part of spring training. But I think that when you look at where the Orioles are and how they have to kind of get their guys ready, and Brandon Hyde needs to look at a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of these other clubs are a little bit more established, so they know kind of where most of the guys are as far as the lineups.
I almost jumped in front of you, but I'm so happy that I got to hear you say Arauz early in the game as well. I forgot how much I missed that.
I had to ask you how to say it.
Don't spoil the magic. Here's Ryan Mountcastle, 33 home runs this season ago. Expected to be the Orioles' everyday first baseman again this year. Ryan, one of the great standout players of the year. Could you call him a surprise? I guess so. We didn't know exactly what we'd get in Ryan Mountcastle's first full season, but what we got was wonderful. Really came on in terms of his power as the year went along. 33 home runs, Orioles rookie record, led all major league rookies as well. And he's still only 25 years old. Yeah,
I think you have to be surprised about what he did. And any player that comes up that first full year in the big leagues, because, look, prospects are just that. That means they haven't done it yet. And even though somebody may come up and do it once, that doesn't mean they'll do it again. There's a lot of adjustments that are going to be, have to be made. So I think when you look at what Mountcastle did, and no question it was a surprise, but he really did look like he had the tools to be able to do it. But there's a lot of guys that have tools, just like Ryan Mountcastle throughout the years, that aren't able to make those adjustments. And what he did was very impressive. I really like to see the consistency. I thought his approach got better as the year went on. And there's no doubt as he was hitting the ball out of the ballpark, you can see that confidence coming on.
There's a good-looking fastball from Pivetta, and Mountcastle knew it. He is strikeout looking with 2 down.
Yeah, this is just a really good pitch. I mean, Pivetta has shown the opportunity to throw the breaking ball already into the first couple batters, and he just paints it right on the outside corner, runs back a little bit towards the middle, but it was such a well-located pitch down at the knees that he just froze Mountcastle.
Here's Trey Mancini back on your television screens after one of the most magical years we've ever seen around these parts. Forget about the numbers, and the numbers were pretty strong for Trey. But what he did, not just playing, but playing basically every day after beating cancer, inspired this whole city and inspired a lot of folks outside the city of Baltimore. American League Comeback Player of the Year a season ago. Trey is DHing today. He's been getting some reps in right field in spring as well, and just seems to be in a pretty comfortable place, having gotten that season out of the way. Coming into spring after having played a full season, the body feels stronger. Can't wait to see what he does this year.
I think when you look at what Mancini did, and you have to kind of, and if you know the background and what he went through, just amazing. And you and I know him a little bit, of course. We have the opportunity to chat with him from time to time, and his approach and what he does on a day-to-day basis, and for him to come back and do what he did, absolutely amazing.
Couple of strikeouts for Pivetta here. Sox lead it after 1. Back to Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. Kevin Brown, Dave Johnson, and our pleasure once again to have Brandon Hyde, the manager of the Orioles, joining us from lovely Sarasota. Brandon, how the heck are you?
Kevin, doing great. How you doing, Dave?
Good.
We are enjoying.
Haven't seen you in a while, Brandon.
I know. I don't think I've seen you since on the golf course. It's been a long time.
That was a couple years.
That's where we've been. I feel like
I've been around.
Oh, have you?
Been around here in Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been around. So.
Okay, well, good to hear your voice.
Hey, look. So, Brandon, shortened spring training got to be a little bit tougher. You got to make evaluations quickly and trying to make these guys obviously not hurry up and get ready. How tough is it for you and your staff to do all that in a very short period of time with a young team?
It's been challenging, there's no doubt. I mean, especially for the pitchers, the most is, we have a lot of guys to look at in only 18, 19 games. Guys kind of came in and from all over the country and worked out at different places. Some of our guys were indoors, so the ramp up for these guys was different for across the board, and so now you're trying to get ready in 3 weeks. It's been hard.
How have you adjusted your schedule?
Well, the first thing we did was really try to evaluate where everybody was physically, and a lot of the warm weather guys honestly were in a little bit easier to kind of get acclimated to spring training. Some of these guys, a lot of our guys hadn't been in spikes much, and not knowing when the lockout was going to end, etc. So we get to know how our guys are physically, and then just kind of go individually from there. And I rested some guys early that I felt like needed it. We have guys that had surgeries at the end of the year last year also, so it's a constant conversation between me and medical staff, strength guys, to put guys out there when they're ready. This is the first night that some of these guys have gone back to back, and I probably wouldn't have done that this early normally, but we got to get ready in 2 weeks, so trying to get these guys in this game shape as soon as possible.
Brandon, with the pitchers, you specifically mentioned, obviously that's a tougher thing because they can only throw so much, and then they can only do it over a period of time. They got to get their rest.
Yep.
How challenging is it to let these guys know, hey, don't overdo it? Yet as a former player, you want to go out and show what you can do. You got to prove to the manager and the coaching staff what you can do. How tough is it to kind of restrain them and hold them back because they haven't had a couple bullpen sessions, and they haven't had your, throwing live BP and all that stuff before they get out there and try to do something when it really matters?
Yeah, some guys had two sides, and all of a sudden they're facing the Yankees. Yeah, it's not that easy. Especially in our situation too, where we don't have obviously a ton of experience. A lot of our pitchers kind of broke in the last couple years. We do have Means and Lyles that are on a little bit of a different program, but most of these guys are trying to win a job. And you want them to compete, but you also don't want to get hurt either. So it's a fine balance. I think we're doing the best we can with it, trying to give everybody a good look. A lot of backfield stuff because we have pitchers. We're trying to build guys up. So it's been a challenge, but I think we're doing the best we can.
Brandon, what's exciting you so far about this group?
Well, a lot of things. I think that we're starting. Like our outfield core. I think these guys are starting to come into their prime. A lot of these guys have swung the bat really well right now. Hazy's swinging the bat really well. Santander's been a little bit of a slow to get started, but swung the bat really well last game. I like our outfield core. I think we were more athletic in the infield. Mateo adds athleticism. We only saw him for a short amount of time last year. He's healthy. He's ready to go. Chris Owings has been a veteran guy that can help and play different spots. I think Mountcastle's coming to his own. And I like some of our bullpen arms. We've got some guys. We got a little more stuff for me than we've had in the past. More options. Some more right-on-right guys. Our division's mainly right-handed. We've struggled with right-on-right in the past, and I feel like some of these guys. We have some big arms in the back of the bullpen that they're going to help us.
I want to go back to the infield for a second. You mentioned Mountcastle. We just saw him at first. It seems like there are some jobs open there. How many blanks have you filled in your mind outside of Ryan at first with the infield?
I've filled in Ryan in the infield. No, we're looking at everybody. Ramon had a good year last year before he got hurt, so I like the way Ramon swings the bat. We're moving. Ramon's been playing shortstop a little bit now. He's at second base tonight. He's going to play third a little bit. Mateo's going to play short and second. Goody, I've had at third. I've had her at first already. I'm taking a look at everybody, and I don't think there's anything set in stone right now on the pitching side as well as the infield, as well as behind the plate too. Like right now we're behind the plate. I like our catching guys. I think we've done a really good job of identifying some guys that have had some experience, a lot of AAA time, some cups of coffee, some big league time, real pros that are back there, and so I'm happy with the catching core right now.
Brandon, obviously everybody wanted to hear about Adley Rutschman. He gets hurt at the beginning of the spring. You got Bo Taylor there right now. It seems like it is a little bit of a different group with Robinson Chirinos the main signing. You have some veterans. As this ball's flared to second and caught by Urias. I know it's significant to you with catching experience to have veteran catchers with a young pitching staff? How different of a feel is that this year?
It's a lot different. Even like Bo's got a lot of years in. Ben Boom's got a bunch of years in the minor leagues. Some major league time with Angels. Nottingham has major league time. So, in Chirinos, like just watching Chirinos catch last night, catching Bradish, just totally in control. It's an incredible leader. He's already been a huge add for us just from experience. Somebody that's been in the wars, somebody that's been winning teams, caught good pitching staffs, know what it's supposed to look like. To have him back there has been a pleasure so far, and I look forward to having Robbie with us.
Hey, we look forward to seeing you up here soon. Have a great last couple of weeks of spring. I know we'll be talking to you again shortly, but it's wonderful to hear your voice again and see your face.
Well, I don't know about seeing my face, but I appreciate the kind words, and thanks so much for having me on. Good. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys.
Orioles manager Brandon Hyde back for his 4th year with the team as this ball by Ryan Fitzgerald is ripped to right for a home run. Oh, Brandon got off the headset just in time. Ryan Fitzgerald, 27-year-old second baseman, with his 4th home run of the Grapefruit League, and a couple of long balls allowed now by Bruce Zimmerman.
Well, I talked about the fastball doesn't move a bunch, so he's got to be more crisp with his location. He's got to get ahead of the hitters, and again, this happens in spring training because there's typically a lot of fastballs thrown. Here's a lefty. I don't know why, but they decided he was going to go in. Not that you don't have to pitch inside, because you do, but you can see the ball actually cut back a little bit to the inner half of the plate. And when you go inside lefty to lefty, you better get it inside. And typically that ball runs in on them, but his fastball actually cut a little bit, came right back over the heart of the plate, and well, we see what happened.
So a couple of home runs for Boston. This is Alex Benelas. And that's what we said with Zimmerman. Breaking balls, you've seen the breaking balls be pretty good. It's the first start in spring. We don't want to make too many judgments, but fastball command, right? Where can he locate that fastball? Is elevating it the answer for him? Is trying to get at the knees the answer for him? Because the fastball, he's thrown for strikes in his minor league career, but last season he was hit a little bit too hard, and too often it was in a little bit too good of an area in the strike zone. This is a good one, though, off speed to get Benelas. So 4 strikeouts for Zimmerman through 2. A couple of home runs for the Red Sox as well. Mullins had a special season last year. First ever 30 home run, 30 stolen base player in Orioles history. Won a Silver Slugger, was an American League All-Star starter, all for a guy who gave up switch hitting in the spring and became one of the American League's most feared and most valuable players. And now you can commemorate Cedric Mullins' silver slugging season with a silver bat and a 30-30 club bobblehead. August 5th is the Orioles take on the Pirates, and we've got our bobblehead model with us in Sarasota right now, the one and only Rock Kabatko. Rock, how are you?
Good. How you doing? I can confirm.
Hold that a little tighter.
I can confirm that it does bobble per industry sources.
You are always on top of your sources. Have you knocked the bat out yet? Because Cedric knocked the bat out of his bobblehead's hands in his announcement video.
It's a little loose, but it'll stay. It'll stay. He certainly is worthy. I mean, it's a great promotion. August 5th against the Pirates, 7:05. Now I have to check whether I'm allowed to take this home or not. No one has told me. I would like to add it to my collection.
Just sneak it away. Just throw it in the gift bag. Hey, Rock, Cedric, we know will be in the Orioles outfield. Brandon Hyde likes what he's seen with this outfield. There was an injury to DJ Stewart, hit by a pitch in the hand yesterday. You have any update on DJ and other injuries around the club?
Yeah, I mean, actually it was good news, and we didn't think it would be because he got nailed by a 96-mile-an-hour fastball on, Brandon said, the third knuckle on his left hand. I'm like, is that left to right or right to left? I think it was the ring finger knuckle, and it was flush, and he jumped out of the box, plopped down to the ground, and we thought, that's got to be a fracture, and it is just a contusion, which is a bruise to you and me, so he is day-to-day.
Whoa! That's a wild throw by Fitzgerald. Anthony Santander is aboard to lead off the bottom of the second. I am looking at the hand, Rock. Wouldn't the third knuckle in be the middle finger either way? Isn't there a knuckle on the thumb, too?
That is a thumb, that is not a finger, so I'm not really sure how that works. But Brandon definitely pointed to the ring finger knuckles. I just I'm using my reporter instincts. But we're he's hoping 3 or 4 days and he can get DJ back on the field. But that's an optimistic and hopeful time frame. You know how this thing works. You hear that and it ends up stretching a little more, and that's one of the weird things about a shortened spring training is, a week or more can ruin your chances to make the club. Normally, a few weeks into spring training, it wouldn't be a big deal. So, you can't rush him back from this, but being out for too long of a period, they may end up having to put him on the injured list, and then we have to find out whether they'd be in the market for a veteran outfielder, because initially Michael I said they were not. I don't know if that would change. I don't know if they feel like they have enough outfielders in camp. You carry another super utility type player who can play the outfield. They're hoping they don't have to worry about that, and it is only 3 or 4 days. But it looked really bad. I don't know how we ended up with just a bruise.
A couple of strikes here on Austin Hayes. I know it is a short start to Camp Rock as we look at DJ Stewart. Who has stood out to you so far? Who is impressing you? What are your big takeaways from the opening period of this truncated spring training?
I love the word truncated. Well played.
Had to bring it back for you. That's a 2020 throwback right there.
That's a shot, my friends. Really, the thing we enjoy more than anything, and it's not to take anything away from the guys, on the 40-man and guys are in Major League camp, but we check that travel roster every day, what guys are coming over from Twin Lakes. It was fun watching Jordan Westberg at third base last night against the Yankees. And, Gunnar Henderson is going to be with them tomorrow in Port Charlotte against the Rays. And we're getting, watch Colton Cowser, who just, everything is a line drive off the bat. I mean, he is a really impressive hitter. Exactly what, the Orioles saw in him at Sam Houston State. I mean, everything is just a line drive. And, seeing Kyle Stowers and the loud contact he makes. And these guys who are getting the lineup, who aren't going to break camp with the team, but we're getting looks at them. We were certainly hoping to be able to do that with Heston Kierstad, with Adley Rutschman, and we can't right now. But really, it's been fun to watch these younger guys. And seeing Kyle Bradish, 2 scoreless against the Yankees last night, and that was their A lineup for sure. And he was I already heard how confident he is, but the fact that he, afterward, when I said, how special was this? You're facing the Yankees in a night game and on the road. And first he talked about how nice it was not to be in a day game because it's too hot. And it was like, well, what about the Yankees? It's like, well, it makes sense because they're in our division, so I'm going to be seeing them a lot, so I need to have that, exposure to them. I thought, man, that's a lot of confidence. He is sure he's going to be pitching against them in the American League East sooner rather than later, and that's what Brandon pointed out afterward. It wasn't just the good stuff, but it was fearless and how confident he is. Not cocky, but very confident, very calm, very composed against that lineup. That was impressive to watch.
Rock, it looks like MLB is going with the expanded rosters, going to 28 to start the season. Does Brandon, has he given you any indication at all? Is he going to go with the extra 2 pitchers, or he's not sure what he's going to do?
I think it's 99.9% certain they will, because that's really why you want to expand the rosters, is to protect the rotation, because guys just don't have enough time to really build up. So rather than carrying another, again, utility infielder or whatever, you need a couple relievers. And I think the more interesting part is what type of reliever. I mean, you want guys who provide length, I would think. So maybe that gives a guy who, former starter who doesn't make the rotation, even somebody like a Spencer Watkins, though he's not on the 40, but one of these guys who is, including whether it is, maybe it's a Zimmerman if he doesn't make the rotation, or maybe it's an Alexander Wells, or maybe it's somebody else, somebody that can provide length as a kind of a bulk guy, but also maybe you can carry an extra left-hander instead of 2, which we assume Paul Fry and Tanner Scott. Maybe Cianel Perez makes it now. Maybe Vespi makes it now. I mean, you've got these kind of competitions, but you can carry a couple extra guys. I just think there's going to be a lot of value in multi-inning guys who are going to be able to cover some innings, because that's the worst part of a shortened spring training. It's not getting guys at bats. It's not getting relievers ready. You get guys at bats every day on the backfield. Starting pitching, you can't just keep running a guy out there every other day and say, hey, give us another 40, 50, 60. You have to be brought along carefully. So you're going to need those extra arms. So I'm fairly certain it's going to be 2 pitchers.
Rock Kabako is with us. Orioles and Red Sox after Santander reached an error. Hayes struck out. This is Ramon Urias, who continues to impress the Orioles. Urias starting at second base today in this unsettled infield. And Ramon takes a strike, 3-2. The rotation right now, I'm going to preface everything with it's early, because it is early, and Bruce Zimmerman's starting for the first time. But we know John Means will be there barring injury. Rock, we know Jordan Lyles, 3 through 5. Do you have an early sense on this competition?
Not really. You can't even really read too much into where they're slotted right now, because, you know, like Lyles is pitching tomorrow. He didn't follow John Means, but it was Bradish. But that doesn't mean Bradish is going to be a number 2, because you've got guys pitching in sim games on the backfields who can be lining up. So, you know, you can't really read too much into when guys are starting right now. Zimmerman, certainly if he could repeat the camp that he had, you know, last year, then yeah, he could be a number 3. There's also the possibility they still bring in a veteran starting pitcher. You know, I mean, during the lockout, obviously, you couldn't make any major league deals. They didn't bring in anybody else on a minor league deal, but they're still going to check. You're going to have a lot of guys seeing the waiver wire, of course, and they may go ahead and get somebody late. But otherwise, you know, it's all the usual suspects, and that can include Wells and Lowther and Dean Kramer and Keegan Aiken. And Bradish is definitely in the running. He's going to make another start down here, and I don't think anybody was projecting him necessarily to be a starter candidate yet. Maybe he'd start out in AAA and then get a shot later. But if he pitches really well, he can win a job here, wherever he's slotted.
Well, Rock, you've spent so much time on with us now that I think your bobblehead may be in danger. So grab it and run. See if you can secure that free collectible. If not, you can get one on August 5th, maybe. But it's great to see you again, our friend, and we look forward to having you with us throughout the year.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Look forward to seeing you guys.
And we're going to get the bobble bicep for Rock one of these years. I just promise it. Rock Kabatko of MASNsports.com, and always contributing with us on the broadcast. Trying to fill in some of the gaps. A lot to fill in still this early in spring training, obviously. Kyle Bradish, though, was electric for the Orioles yesterday. One of those young pitchers Brandon Hyde is really excited about. And a nice positive spin in the first week of spring training. That outing against the Yankees yesterday. This is Jorge Mateo. Good rip on a 2-strike fastball from Mateo, 26-year-old, who certainly opened some eyes in his late season period with the Orioles last year, particularly the way that he can fly around the bases. And Mateo gets a hanging breaking ball and skewers it toward the left field corner. Santander will score, and Urias will hold at third base. Jorge Mateo trying to lock down a starting spot on this team. That's going to help his cause. A 2-strike RBI double.
Yeah, he gets a hanging breaking ball. We've seen a pretty good breaking ball from Pivetta so far, but he's also got some high strikes. And that was another pitch that may have been a borderline strike. At least the umpire's been calling that. Mateo jumped on it, turns on it, knocks it down the left field line, and you can see, as you mentioned, Kevin, he's got some wheels and he can run. You can't steal first base, but speed does not go into slumps. So speed on the base pass and the ability to, if you just can put it in play and put a lot of pressure on defense, you can have some success.
Here's a swing from Kelvin Gutierrez that should bring in a run. Kike Hernandez with a nice catch in center. And Urias will tag Mateo to third. And it's a 3-2 game on a sac fly from Gutierrez. Well, download the MLB app this year and get covered all season long with your Orioles video highlights, live pitch by pitch, breaking news, player updates, stat leaderboards, and more. Mateo and Gutierrez, 2 players who are trying to lock down spots on the opening day roster with RBIs. Mateo 26 years old, Gutierrez 27. And here's one of these catchers in the mix for the backup spot, Bo Taylor.
Well, Brandon did mention that he liked the catching core that he has right now. You mentioned Adley Rushman being hurt, of course, and that's unfortunate. But to have some guys that can step in and take care of a young pitching staff, because that's what they're going to have to do. You have some guys in Chirinos that has the experience, and a guy like Bo Taylor could step in there. And again, you're not necessarily looking for great offense from those guys. What you're really looking for is handle the young guys, work them through their major league debuts, their rookie seasons and things like that, and help them really kind of just work their way through it and get a good feeling of knowing that, hey, I can be successful here. I got to make adjustments, but in the end, it's about throwing strikes changing speeds. And I think that the catching core is very, very important, and the defense is very, very important. And we didn't necessarily see that the last couple of years.
Taylor chases a high one from Pivetta. And the inning ends, but the Orioles get on the board. Mateo with the big hit, an RBI double in the middle of a 2-run second. Orioles fans, opening day is just over a couple of weeks away. Monday, April 11th, the Orioles and the Milwaukee Brewers at 3:05. This could be a special year here at Camden Yards, the 30th anniversary of Oriole Park. Opening day tickets available at Orioles.com/tickets. We hope to see you all here. A new era in Orioles baseball, year 30 at Camden Yards, new dimensions, new left field wall. Can't wait to see who's on the roster making the trip north in a couple of weeks as the Orioles go to the bullpen for Zach Lowther.
Yeah, Zach Lowther is a guy that the Orioles saw over the last 3 or 4 years in the lower levels of the minor leagues all the way through AA. Put up terrific numbers. Not a hard thrower, kind of similar to Bruce Zimmerman. The guy's not popping it up there 95, 96, 97, but as a left-handed pitcher, if you have the ability to repeat your delivery and change speeds a little bit, throw your changeup over the plate, throw enough strikes, and throw enough fastballs to make them respect it, you can have some success. He hasn't had that, clear success at the higher level of the minor leagues. But remember, Kevin, we're talking about some weird things that have happened in the last 2 or 3 years with all the COVID things and now the shortened spring training. So, a lot of guys are going to get opportunities, and Zach Lowther's one of them.
Pitched very well at the end of the year. Lowther, as he delivers a strike to Hernandez. Saw the numbers overall, 6.67 ERA. 5 starts in September. 3 of those starts, 5 or more innings, 1 earned run or less. And you can cleave Lowther's season neatly down the middle. 5 starts against the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, 11.66 ERA. 5 starts against not the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, a 1.80 ERA. Now you're in this division, you got to face the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, but he pitched much better against some of the teams that were not necessarily 1 through 9 mashers like Boston and Toronto. Seemed to pitch well at the end of the year, and as you mentioned, weird year for a lot of these guys. Only 29 2/3 big league innings for Zach Lowther a season ago, with some issues with injuries, went up and down between the minors and the bigs. In total, threw a little bit less than 70 innings on the year, so a full season for him. This could be a breakout candidate.
Yeah, I just look at all these guys and given this opportunity to be able to, be at the big league level, and knowing that the roster's wide open with only really 2 starting pitchers that are kind of etched in stone, so to speak, in the rotation. I would think these guys are excited about getting this opportunity, and Zach's a guy, I think he might have a little bit of deception in the fastball up in the zone, which is okay, but you can't pitch up in the zone all the time, and you can't pitch up there when you're behind in the count. So we saw him have the confidence to throw a breaking ball there, 3-2 count. So that's nice to see, because as a starting pitcher in particular, to pitch and go through a lineup multiple times, you have to have the ability to get people out in the strike zone. You can't always expect them to chase pitches out of the zone. You have to get them out with strikes, and you have to be able to manipulate that strike zone a little bit, inside, outside, up and down, and pitch back and forth with the changeup. So, he cut guys up, in the minor leagues. There's no doubt about that, and he just hasn't had a lot of AAA experience. And sometimes, if you can get a year or 2 of AAA experience and then get that up and down at the big league level, you kind of get that taste, and the next time you come up to the big leagues, you're not in all of that whole thing. I remember when I made my major league debut for the Pirates back in '87, I couldn't breathe. I mean, it's it's that moment you wait for your whole life, and it's like an out-of-body experience. I couldn't even feel where I was, and gave up a couple runs, a couple walks, and my next 2 or 3 outings pitched really well. So hopefully they get comfortable, and he will get comfortable knowing that I can throw strikes, I can get guys out in the strike zone, and I don't have to be too fine, because with a lot of these guys we've seen over the past couple of years, I think they try to be too fine, and they walk too many guys, they get behind too many guys. That's a bad combination to pitch at the big league level.
Lowther with a couple of strikes on Jarren Duran, and he goes to another breaking ball to strike him out. So 2 punch outs for Zach Lowther in relief of Bruce Zimmerman.
I think he's got a little bit of a slinger there, kind of delivery, and that's why he can be really tough on lefties. It's like maybe a low 3/4 slot, and that's why that breaking ball is effective there. So he's shown the ability to throw the breaking ball for a strike, 3-2, and he got a strikeout on the first batter he faced. And then he also shows the ability to, when you're ahead, to throw that breaking ball down and out of the zone and get him to chase. And that's always good to see.
A strike to start Kevin Plawecki. Lowther more than a strikeout an inning last year, just barely. 30 in 29 and 2/3. In the minors, 45 strikeouts, 39 and 1/3. Curveball and the slider, much like Zimmerman, were the two big pitches for him last year. Opposing hitters just 6 for 38, 1 double and no homers against the curveball and the slider. And it goes to a fastball here on Plawecki. Lowther looking to strike out the top 3 in the 3rd, and Plawecki would not give in. Orioles pitchers have struck out 6 tonight. 6 out of the 8 outs recorded via the strikeout. And that one got away from Lowther. Question with him, pretty similar to Zimmerman. Can he command the fastball? People hit the fastball very well. Lefties even hit the fastball last year. Had some struggle locating the fastball inside. And like Zimmerman, it's about a 91-mile-an-hour pitch.
That's why you hope to somehow, if you don't have great movement, you got to have some kind of deception with that fastball. We see there, he's not necessarily trying to be too fine, but in the back of his mind, is he thinking, hey, I don't want to throw a 3-2 fastball down the middle. And until the guys feel that I can get guys out with my repertoire in the strike zone, they will have a tendency to kind of, feel for the corners and trying to, I'll try to deceive him here a little bit. I'll make it look like a strike, but it's going to be out of the zone. You can't do that consistently. You've got to throw a lot of strikes.
There's a good start to Shaw. Another first pitch strike from Lowther. Bruce Zimmerman struck out Travis Shaw in Travis's first time. 2 innings for Zim, 3 hits, 2 runs, or 3 runs all earned. Got a couple of homers and struck out 4. And a good 3rd inning for Lowther. 2 strikeouts and a ground out with a 2-out walk sandwiched in between. Nice spring debut for the lefty. Kevin Brown, Dave Johnson, back with you as the Orioles and the Red Sox play from Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. Thrilled to be joined by Mark Trumbo, 4-year Oriole and now a guest instructor here at the Major League Spring Training Camp. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. It's been a lot of fun so far.
Is it weird for you to be on the coaching side at spring training for once?
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. Finding the right locker room on the first day was, you get pretty used to one, and then I said, oh wait, I got no business over here, so I better move over there. But so far, it's been a real pleasure to be around these guys, and I played with quite a few of them, which helps, being recently removed. So there's some continuity there.
Mark, what exactly goes under your job description of guest instructor?
Honestly, I was told to do whatever I wanted to, which was...
How do we all get that deal?
That's beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, I think that they were being really cool. I think ultimately it's to talk to as many of the hitters as I can, or as many as that want to talk. Maybe be a resource for the coaching staff, any questions they have, and just any way I can be of help, I'm happy to do. That can be the technical side, hitting, or advice about literally anything that comes with the game. I think being somebody who played just a few years ago, that may resonate a little bit better with some of these guys. And I'm, for me, it's invaluable to kind of get to be able to pick people's brains about stuff that's not related to playing, that's coaching, whether it's hitting or managing or anything like that.
Mark, when you look at, you mentioned that you haven't been away from the game that long, and many times guest instructors come in, they might have played 15, 20, 25 years ago as they come back and hang around camp and talk to the players. But you're in a situation where you just played. You said you played with some of these guys, as we see, a bomb by Mountcastle over the center field wall. Do you kind of have the itch a little bit? I mean, it hasn't been that long. I mean, do you feel like, hey, you know, is this where I want to be right now, or are you really enjoying what you're doing, having this opportunity?
You know, I miss doing that, but that's probably about it in certain terms. You know, honestly, physically, it's no longer an option, and I've done everything I can to, you know, at least at the end, to see if there was a little bit more in the tank. But like many before me, sometimes it's pretty obvious when it's your time to kind of transition out, and I didn't miss anything in this game. I've done everything I wanted to do, and some guys are kind of wired to want to stay in it in some capacity. I think I fall under that. And then it's up to you to kind of figure out what that is, whether it is in the coaching world or maybe at the youth level or any number of things. And you know, being 36 with too much free time is not always a great thing either. So I said, you know, when they extended the invite, I said, sure, I'll come out. I'll see what's going on with the next wave.
Mark, I know you're very close with the guy at the plate right now, Trey Mancini. You two did some work together this offseason as well. What can you tell us about your work with Trey?
Yeah, Trey came out to California, and we did a lot of work on a few different areas that I think are going to pay huge dividends for him. The early stuff in camp, obviously you want results right away. Everybody does, especially Trey. He tends to, you know, he's a pretty fiery guy and expects a lot out of himself. And I've tried to, you know, tell him we're playing the long game. He's got enough experience. He's got enough at-bats under his belt that, you know, the big picture is going to be really good. And there were a couple areas that I think that, you know, are things that he can improve upon. Everybody's got a few weaknesses, and you know, if he can shore up a few of the holes, you know, the player that he is already is going to be that much better.
Mark, are you enjoying the coaching side? Do you think this is where you might want your future to be, coaching, managing a role like that?
I think that it's worth exploring at least. I feel like, you know, honestly, a lot of the guys when I was a young player did a lot of things for me that were helpful, and especially a lot of the coaches that really resonated. And some guys I think just are wired to want to kind of give back in some way. You accumulate knowledge playing, the things you experienced, and especially with a team that can be on the young side with not a lot of veteran guys. You're asking a lot of guys that are in their third or fourth year sometimes to be a well-rounded veteran when you're trying to fight for your own, you know, career, establish yourself. And it's good to sprinkle in some guys that have way more experience, have been around a lot, have seen a lot more perspective. And I think that, you know, that is kind of why I'm here for a few days at least. But I am interested in this, trying to figure out what the best fit is, whether it's coaching, hitting, maybe managing, maybe being just a resource on the side. It's not that easy to kind of figure it out right away, but I'm trying to flesh out what makes sense.
Mark, we love hearing how your baseball brain works, and we look forward to many years of you being around the game if that's what you want. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Mark Trumbo, great Oriole player, great member of the community, great guy in the clubhouse. Great luck charm as Ryan Mountcastle homered during his at-bat as well.
Well, and that was the most I heard Mark Trumbo talk. Even the parts of 4 seasons that he was here, I wasn't necessarily sure I actually would have recognized his voice. But you could tell that he's very measured in what he's thinking about and what he decides to say, which that is a nice thing to have as a mentor, as a coach, somebody who's going to, you know, try to be there for some younger guys, and you know, you need to be in that situation where you think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it.
Well, this game is tied because of an absolute tank from Ryan Mountcastle. Looked like one of those Trumbo Jumbos we used to see here in Baltimore. Ryan ties the score in the third. Orioles fans, Birdland memberships are now available for 2022. All members receive benefits including an increased discount on concessions and merchandise up to 30% off, plus a whole lot of different Birdland rewards. Get an exclusive membership gift with your purchase. Plans as low as $208. Orioles.com/membership. We can see a few more of you as Birdland members out at the ballpark this year. Opening day, April 11th. Not too far away. The Orioles will open their road campaign at Tampa Bay on the 8th. 3-game series there, and then come home and odd interleague opening play against the Milwaukee Brewers. Of course, it used to be an American League game, Orioles Brewers, but now interleague play. We'll be seeing, it sounds like, the Brewers and the rest of the National League more as part of the CBA next year. It sounds like the schedule will change in the major leagues. So teams will not face their divisional opponents quite as much, which, given the strength of the American League East, can only be a good thing.
No doubt. And I do love the opportunity to have where every team gets to play every other team in baseball. I'm excited for that. I think that's something that's been really overdue, and to have an opportunity, if they can make that work, to where every team gets an opportunity to face at least one series with every other team in baseball, American and National League. I think that's going to be fun. It's good for the fans. I mean, there's just so many players that played in the other league that I never saw, never got to see, even on TV.
Rob Refsnyder takes a called third strike. Zach Lowther gets the high strike from Jeremy Riggs, and he's punched out 3 in an inning and a third.
Well, it is spring training for the umpires as well. This pitch is borderline. Is it a strike according to the rule book? Yes. Is it a strike they normally call? No. But every now and then they will ring a guy up, and as a pitcher, you say thank you very much and throw the ball around.
We actually hit the over on our first "It's spring training for the blank" too. I figured it would be spring training for the broadcasters too. When
I didn't know there was going to be a race between you and I to see who said it first.
Unspoken competition. As Lowther gets a breaking ball over for a swinging strike against Roberto Ramos. Minor league first baseman for the Red Sox, Roberto Ramos. In the back half of this lineup, not filled with likely major leaguers this year for Boston. But Ramos has a little pop. This is a gap splitter in right center field, and it will be eventually a double for Roberto.
Well, he has a lot of pop. Fortunately, he doesn't have a lot of speed. That ball hung up against the fence right at the bottom, so he was only able to lumber in for a double. Maybe somebody with a little bit more speed might have been able to get around the third base on that. But, yeah, he smoked that ball. There's no question about that. And Cedric says, okay, I know who's running. I just need to get the ball, make sure I get it, and get it into second base and go from there.
First hit allowed by Lowther. 1 walk, 3 strikeouts in an inning and a third. And here's Jonathan Arauz.
I apologize if I kind of flinch a little bit when I hear that noise, the ball hitting the bat like that. I kind of flashbacks.
Still brings back memories.
Yeah, that one there got me a little bit with that solid contact and the echo. I was just glad I didn't have a glove in the left hand and have to duck.
Well, unfortunately for you, it's very good field mic work tonight as well. But all jokes aside, like, you're going to give up some of those in spring training, especially for Lowther. It's his debut. Zimmerman, a lot of swings and misses, some hard contact against both two. As a pitcher, your evaluation of your first outing, your first couple of outings, I'm guessing it's not much based on results. What do you evaluate on a night like this?
I think to some extent, Kev, it's different for everybody because your results are your results. But, I think Zach's had a little bit of success here with the first inning out there. And then here he gets hit hard on that ball. It's a fastball up in the zone. It's going to get hit hard most of the time. And he just threw another fastball up in the zone and got a strike, which you don't get away with very often. So we've seen 2 high strikes being called in this inning already. as a pitcher, you kind of, as you let it out of your hand, you're like, oh, that's not really where I wanted to throw it. And when he doesn't swing, good. When he calls it a strike, even better. But you know that's not where I want to go. And unless you're trying to climb the ladder in a certain situation in the count. But yeah, you just got to be able to throw the ball down in the zone a little bit more consistently. And it's different too because
Mountcastle comes in to make the catch, drop number 2.
You know, they recently, with all the new analytics, a lot of guys are pitching up in the zone. A lot of pitching coaches are talking about spin rates and how, you know, you want to stay up in the zone. And I'm telling you right now, I don't have all their spin rate information. I don't have all the different, the 3D motions on all the different guys. I don't have all their analytical stats because they keep some of that stuff, you know, in-house. But I know sitting at Camden Yards as many times as I had, I don't want to pitch up in the zone at Camden Yards all the time. Yes, you do have to go up there and you have to show it every now and then, and maybe you chase the ladder on certain hitters. But up in the zone is not a good place to be. There's a reason they moved that wall in left center field and left field down the line back a bit, because if you pitch up in the zone at Camden Yards, that ball has a tendency to stay up, and away.
Well, they're working on Ryan Fitzgerald here, who homered his first time. And there's a breaking ball down from Zach Lowther. Hoping to be in the big leagues for the second year, Lowther. Couple of innings tonight after 2 innings from Zimmerman. Orioles stretch out their pitchers as much as they reasonably can early. And with the expanded 28-man rosters, they're going to need a couple of long men. Maybe Lowther's going to get one of those spots. Maybe he'll start. 2 scoreless tonight. A good debut for him. Well, this February 25th, the Orioles announced that Paul McCartney will perform the second ever major concert at Camden Yards Sunday, June 12th, part of his 2022 Got Back tour. There's the McCartney 22 jersey. He's got the locker. First Paul McCartney performance in Baltimore in about 60 years. The Beatles played here, not here at Camden Yards, didn't exist, but in '64 the Beatles played in Baltimore. Tickets are on sale at Orioles.com/McCartney. First of all, Paul McCartney, pretty good. I'd heard of him. Can't recommend it enough.
Really good.
Second of all, pretty cool thing this year, donations will support the Baltimore School for the Arts Twigs and BSA Jazz programs for aspiring young musicians. You can make a voluntary donation when you buy a ticket, help out some local musicians in town. Trying to be the next generation of Paul McCartney's. Billy Joel, the first concert a couple of years ago. Paul McCartney this June. As long as my bosses know, I may come up with a cold on Sunday, June 12th. So excited to have Sir Paul here. As Austin Hayes sends one sky high to foul territory, and Ramos. If anybody's listening and they're thinking Paul McCartney is old, I don't want to see anymore, let me tell you, I've seen Paul 3 times. Saw him a couple of years ago. He still plays 35 song sets. He'll play 2.5 hours. He still sounds great. If you're wondering, should I see Paul McCartney? Go see Paul McCartney. It will be one of the great nights of your life. And if not, I will pay you back. That is not binding, but the rest of it is.
I've just seen a couple recent YouTube, videos and some snippets of some concerts, and you're right, Kevin. This guy, I mean, he can still wail. He plays in long sets. He still just sounds terrific. Absolutely sounds terrific. And yeah, that's a concert you don't want to miss. Look, you're not going to get an opportunity to see Paul McCartney again, that's for sure. So get your tickets. And
I don't know what you're playing. Paul's going to play until he's 110.
Well, okay, well maybe so. Then he'll defy my logic. But I was at the Billy Joel concert that was here at Camden Yards. I wasn't sure how that would work, in this venue. It was a terrific concert.
Awesome.
So absolutely get your tickets, because that's going to be, for a lot of people, clearly a once-in-a-lifetime gig, and I'm really looking forward to him being here in Baltimore.
60 years or so since he's been here, and can't wait to see this park used for more big concerts, more entertainment events like that. 30th anniversary of Oriole Park this year. Going to be an unforgettable night. Orioles play the Royals early that day in Kansas City. You can get an Orioles win and Paul McCartney concert. 3-2 for Ramon Urias here. Nick Pivetta still throwing in the fourth. The rare starting pitcher in the fourth inning in the second week of spring training. And 66 pitches in for the veteran righty. Urias in the air to left. Did he get enough of it? At the wall, he sure did. Ramon Urias, who was one of the best Orioles hitters in a season out of nowhere last year, cranks his second home run of the spring, and the Orioles are on top.
Well, he got a fastball up in the zone, and he turned on it, and that'll happen no matter where you are, whether it's spring training and during the day, and where the ball flies like crazy, or it's a night game like tonight, or here in Baltimore, you get a fastball up there, and that'll happen at the big league level. So he just turns and burns on that thing, and that was a beautiful sight to see. And I think, you know, you mentioned Pivetta still being out there for the fourth inning. The only thing I can think of is that he must be living the southern part of the states, and he must have worked out with the college team and doing sim games or something, because it doesn't make sense to me that they would be pushing him, you know, if they didn't feel that he could do this. And now being close to, what, 70 pitchers or so, this is a little crazy to me to see him out there doing this.
He's from Canada, Nick Pivetta, so he really is soaking up the warmer weather here as much as he can.
Well, that makes no sense unless he comes down, you know, a couple of weeks early, or now these guys make enough money, they can come down to spring training a few weeks early and get ready.
This is a pop-up from Mateo. And Jorge Mateo is the second out of Nick Pivetta's fourth. So a couple of home runs for the Orioles tonight. Mountcastle with a shot to center the third, and Ramon Urias here in the fourth inning. Player that Brandon Hyde has really grown to enjoy in his time of year, Ramon. And with an Orioles infield that still has some question marks, Ramon Urias has really hit well in spring. He's doing a heck of a job getting himself to be a front runner somewhere. Where? That's unclear. Rougned Odor was signed here, veteran acquisition, to play second base. Played a little third with the Yankees last year. Said a couple of days ago he really was never comfortable there. So you figure Odor will play a lot of second. Urias has played second. He's played short. He's played third. Kelvin Gutierrez here played a lot of third last year. The way Ramon Urias is swinging, the Orioles, Brandon Hyde will want his bat in the lineup somewhere. And Gutierrez trying to bolster his case. A sac fly, and now an opposite field base hit for the O's third baseman.
Yeah, he saw a pretty good gap there between first and second. You can see he pulls his hands in, and I tell you, he does a nice job, hits the ball the other way. And, you know, he's just shown the ability to put the bat on the ball. He's shown the power that he has by hitting the deep sac fly. So you mentioned the whole infield. A lot of jobs available. Urias is going to have a leg up, of course, if he can swing the bat the way he did swing the bat last year, and then, of course, so far this spring. So it's good to see the competition with some guys that Brandon's going to have an opportunity to say, hey, you know, my decision's really hard. The last thing you want as a manager when the decision's really easy, and it's only easy because you have one guy getting the job done, or it's a default to a certain guy or a veteran because nobody from the younger side is coming up and making a run for that position.
Urias still chatting it up in the background. Flying high after his second home run of the spring. Gutierrez aboard after a single, and Bo Taylor, one of those veterans in the catching mix at the plate. Gutierrez, very athletic guy. Offensive numbers weren't great last year, but the Orioles liked the swing. They really liked his defense. He was maybe their best defensive infielder in a small sample size last year. We'll go to second on a 4-pitch walk here for Bo Taylor. 2-out rally from the 8 and 9 hitters against Nick Pivetta. And that may be that for Nick Pivetta. Alex Cora, who apparently hasn't shaved since the end of last season, is out to take the ball away. So the Sox will go to the bullpen. Orioles chase Pivetta. They've scored in 3 straight innings and have the lead. Most families bring the kids to the ballpark this season with our Kids Cheer Free program. Every Upper Deck ticket purchased and up to 2 tickets for kids 9 and under free. Kids Cheer Free presented by Baltimore area Chick-fil-A restaurants. Get in on the fun and festivities with your next generation of Orioles fans. Purchase your tickets at Orioles.com/kidsfree. 3 2/3 innings for Nick Pivetta. Red Sox go to the bullpen, and Cedric Mullins will bat here in the 4th. Mullins with a fly out and a pop up his first 2 times up. And Mullins grounds 1 to first. And Cedric Mullins retired by Joan Martinez out of the bullpen for Boston. But Ramon Urias continues his great start to spring. A couple of early home runs for Urias, trying to find his way somewhere in the opening day starting lineup. Home run in the 4th inning for Ramon Urias. Home runs for Mountcastle and Urias. Jorge Mateo an RBI double. Kelvin Gutierrez a sac fly. Orioles have the lead on the Red Sox in their 7th spring game of the year and our first spring training television broadcast. Good to be back with all of you, and we know how much you missed Orioles baseball. We missed it just as much. Can't wait to have a full regular season soon. A couple more spring games for you. Tanner Scott is on for the Orioles. 62 games a season ago.
Yeah, I think when you look at what Tanner Scott brings to the table, it's that mid to upper 90s fastball. Unfortunately, what it also brings to the table is he doesn't throw enough strikes. He ends up getting behind guys. He walks too many guys. And I think he's been in the league long enough now, though. I think he is in a position where he understands that, look, I can get guys out. I have to make sure that I throw the ball over the plate more consistently. Now, it's one thing to be able to say that in your mind and be mature enough and have enough experience to know that that's what you need to do and that's what you want to do. But it all comes down to what I talked about earlier in the game is you got to have that pitcher's feel. And many times the guys who are the hardest throwers, the guys who can throw that ball 95 to 100 miles per hour like Tanner Scott can, they have a tendency for the most part to not have that same pitcher's feel, that release point, the consistency coming off their fingertips and being able to manipulate that ball in the strike zone. So we'll see if it gets better for him this year, and hopefully in the spring we'll see if it gets better right away because he needs to throw more strikes and he can be effective.
Leadoff single allowed to Alex Benelis. There are some defensive changes for the Orioles here. These sorts of things tend to happen in the middle of a spring game. Gunnar Henderson, very exciting young player, is at shortstop now. First baseman is Tyler Nevin. So Henderson and Nevin on the infield. Ryan McKenna, who's got a good chance to make the team, is in left. And Taron Vavra, another exciting young player in center. This is, in a sense, where the games can really get fun. It's great to see all the regulars and Urias and Mountcastle and Mateo with big swings. But now you could see some of the future players of the Orioles. Gunnar Henderson certainly expected to be a big part of the club on the left side of the infield. What can Taron Vavra and Tyler Nevin do? They were trade acquisitions a couple of years ago. Michael Gibbons deal. Ryan McKenna, exciting young outfielder. Got some time in the big leagues last year. Really impressed defensively. Really impressed as a base runner. So these are key at-bats. Some of these players will make the team. Some of them, like Gunnar Henderson, will not, but are getting valuable big league experience. Are getting to show what they can do. Getting to excite us and excite the fan base and excite everybody around the team. It's a foul ball from Kike Hernandez for strike 2.
When you have your minor league camp so close now, like the Orioles have had for a long time, well, at least for the last 7, 8, 9 years, they've had that opportunity to have the minor league camp really close. You can bring those guys over, and so some of these guys that you mentioned, Gunnar Henderson and McKenna, some of these guys have had an opportunity now to be over here early in their careers. I mean, I remember when I played you didn't just go over, and the Pirates situation in Bradenton, when I signed originally with the Pirates, you know, McKechnie Field was a couple miles away from our, you know, Pirate City where we had our minor league complex, and guys would go over, but they didn't take guys from A-ball or AA. They took guys that were in AAA, guys that were in those non-roster guys, and some extra guys like that who were AAA players. So the Orioles have used some of their young guys over the last few years, even when Buck was here, that they said, look, let's bring these guys over. Let's let them see that, you know, it's 60 feet 6 inches at the big league field too, and it's, you know, 90 feet down the bases. So I think that gives them a little bit of a leg up, because now they come over. It's still the big leagues. It's still, you know, the big time. It's the ultimate. It's the top level. But some of these guys have been on this field before. Some of the guys have, they kind of already know that, yeah, the dimensions are the same. The level of talent is higher. The competition's tougher. But some of those things kind of get knocked to the wayside, where they can only, now they only have to kind of concentrate on doing their job. Some of those ancillary things, that white noise, so to speak, kind of goes away.
Snap throw from Taylor, and not in time to first. 3-2 on Hernandez. And Tyler Nevin got a cup of coffee in the big leagues last year. Terran Vabra's on the 40-man roster. Very well could make his debut this year, 24 years old. Ryan McKenna got a lot of time. Hernandez socks one in a right. And Santander is there, playing the outfield for the first time this spring. Santander with the first out.
Well, sure would be nice to see Santander to be able to stay on the field, not coming up with all of the nagging injuries that he's had over the last few years. He's such a talent, good power from both sides, more than adequate in the outfield, and just unfortunately he's just been besieged by injuries, and he just hasn't been able to be out there and play on a regular basis.
And never really got going last year. Had a great 2020 season in the short year. He was the most valuable Oriole. Orioles have given Trey Mancini some time in right field this spring, in part to try and keep Santander fresh in case he runs into any other injury issues. But we know the bat can play, and we know the arm can play here for Tanner Scott, as Duran spits on the breaking ball for strike two. Seen Tanner a couple of times in spring. 2 games he's had some control issues early. 4 walks, 2 hits, 1 strikeout in his first inning and 2/3. Was really pitching well last season for most of the year. Again, some injury issues with him. A tough finish. And Scott with a tight slider here. That's the pitch that can just be so dangerous. And he picks up his first strikeout of the night with it.
Yeah, it just comes down to, like I said, he's got to throw more strikes, and if the hitters are anticipating strikes on him, they're going to swing a lot of pitches that end up being out of the zone. That actually was in the zone, and it goes back to also what I was saying, that you have to have the ability to get guys out with strikes at the big league level. They're not going to chase all the time, but if you fill up that strike zone early in the count, then all of a sudden they will start chasing those pitches out of the zone.
Taylor will put a second, and the pinch runner Rafaela is in there after the uncaught ball from Bo Taylor. That's the young player Ceddanne Rafaela, 21-year-old third baseman, getting to make the trip for the Red Sox.
Well, they're native of Curacao.
A lot of baseball players, a couple we've seen over here from Curacao. Always fun to go through the bios, some of the younger players that come up, the travel squad for these games. Full name Ceddanne Chipper Nicasio Marte Rafaela. I think Chipper for Chipper Jones, maybe. I don't know.
No.
Kind of a strange one to insert in there.
That's as good as guess as any.
Yeah. That's why you were named Dave Matheson, Cleveland Alexander Johnson.
Yeah, I'm sure.
3-1 here. Scott dealing with Kevin Plawecki. Tanner Scott in his third spring outing. And Plawecki yanks one fair past the bag to tie the score. Rafaela darts home. Kevin Plawecki gonna sit on it at first with an RBI single against Scott to tie the game at 4.
Yeah, they're playing him the pull, and he simply just kind of slaps it the other way. Saw Nevin play him way off the bag, and he doesn't necessarily hit this ball really hard, but it was perfectly placed between Nevin. There's you see him way off the bag. Hits it down the first baseline. In no man's land, so to speak, because there's nobody standing over there.
Travis Shaw's behind a fastball from Scott. You know, for Tanner last year, go toward the end of July, right near the deadline, he was a player that had his name brought up by members of the media, possible trade candidate. Had a 2.65 ERA near the end of July. And then had some issues with a left knee injury, strained left knee. 20 earned runs, final 16 2/3. A lot of base runners in that span. We saw some outings where he would throw basically nothing but sliders at times, had some trouble commanding the fastball. Injury certainly played a big part in that. You don't know exactly how much in certain outings, but he was clearly not right after the beginning of the season, where you felt like maybe this is the kind of Tanner Scott the Orioles wanted to see to fully unlock the left arm. And it has been that kind of a story for Brandon High. You go back to 2020, 131 ERA, 25 games. The year before that, 478. So you hope this is one of those great Tanner years, and he certainly has the arm to do it. The mechanics have been simplified the last couple of years, and I think for a player like Tanner Scott, this is an important year because there are more and more young players coming through the Orioles system. Brandon Hyde said a greater depth of arms. You have a chance to show your stuff, and for somebody like Tanner, for somebody like Dylan Tate, this is kind of a make or break year in some ways, you think. Scott gets out of the 5th here, gives up the run, and we are tied at 4 on a lovely night in Sarasota. It's been an offensive heavy spring training game, number 7 for the Orioles. 2-3-1 in the all important Grapefruit League standings. Red Sox are 6-1, which means approximately nothing. Jake Diekman, good left-hander, is on for Boston here in the 5th.
You see his numbers there. Pitched in a bunch of games for the Red Sox, or for Oakland last year. But I think that when you get an opportunity to see these spring games and guys come in and get their inning work here and there, we're seeing them from the other clubs. And I think from an Orioles fan standpoint, they're really excited about some of those younger guys that you were talking about, Kevin. And I think that, you know, here's a veteran guy. You watch these veteran guys as they come in. Hopefully the Orioles pitching staff, the younger guys, watching how Jake Diekman comes in. Here he's got him been in the league for 10 or 11 years. And, you know, how does he go about his business? How do you stay at the big league level for 10 or 11 years? It's not easy to do. A lot of guys don't play in the big leagues for, 9, 10, 11 years. So I think that you can learn from not only what you do and your successes and failures between the lines, but you can learn by watching and seeing how other guys go about their business.
So Tyler Nevin gets a shot at Jake Diekman here in the 5th inning. Tyler Nevin, a little bit of big league time last year. Most of the season in AAA. Had some pop. You see the 15 home runs. 18 plate appearances for Nevin. Got off to a good start. RBI double in his first game. First career home run went 442 feet at the end of the season against Toronto. Tyler Nevin, one of these young players, was a bat the Orioles really like. Seeing him at first base here, somebody who can play the corner infield, can play some outfield maybe. And the Orioles like Nevin. They like Taron Vavra, the 2 players who were acquired in the Michael Gibbons deal a couple of years ago. So for Tyler Nevin, a player who's on the 40-man roster could see some chances in the big leagues this year because of the different positions he can play with that versatility in the corners and then in the outfield if needed. Nevin fouls it away as we've got another special guest joining us from Sarasota. Zach Lowther, who threw a couple of scoreless innings for the Orioles in relief, is somewhere out there near the bullpen with us. Zach, what's going on?
You know, just hanging out. Got a couple more pitches down the bullpen, and now just excited for a conversation.
I'm glad you're excited for a conversation. We're excited to have you. You look good. It was a pretty good spring training debut from our vantage point. How'd it feel for you?
It was great to be back out there. Just after a long off season, and then rushing into spring training this year, it was kind of a whirlwind in the beginning, but yeah, games are always fun, especially in the night atmosphere.
How did you stay in shape during the longer off season?
You know, I was able to come down to Florida. Well, my college pitching coach is in Orlando, so I was able to work out with him and kind of get acclimated to the Florida weather. You know, being from Ohio, it's a little colder during this time of the year, so got to get my feet in the dirt a little earlier, so that was definitely beneficial for me.
Zach, when you look at the opportunities here for the Orioles pitching staff, you're one of the younger guys, got a kind of taste of it a little bit last year. How do you feel this year, this spring training? And I know it's a little different, not talking about the short period of time to get ready, but just kind of how do you feel as being in big league camp and getting this opportunity this year as opposed to, say, last year or the other times when you would, you know, get an opportunity to pitch?
I think it's different. Just being here a couple years now, it definitely, your mentality grows. You know what to expect a little more and how to train for that. But the environment, getting to know more guys throughout the year and being able to play with them and get to know them more personally, I think it helps the clubhouse, and then me coming into that after a couple years of being around but not really part of it. So it's definitely, it was more comfortable this year, I would say.
Zach, what specific things did you work on with your pitches this offseason?
You know, just getting more repetitive. Pitching's a game of being good all the time, or as much as you can, so being able to make those adjustments quicker and know my body just a little bit more than I did last year to be more consistent.
When you say know your body a little more than you did last year, what do you mean by that?
I was able to drop some weight and being able to understand how to move better and more efficiently to produce a better product, you know, while I'm pitching. And that took place in the weight room, that took place on the mound, that it kind of is all encompassing. So it was a challenging off season for me, and I feel like I'm growing in the right direction this year.
Challenging in a good way?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime that you're able to challenge yourself in the off season when there's no competition is, I think, more beneficial than when there is competition, because it feels more natural once you're in the competition.
Zach, when you're, you know, here at the big league level, trying to use all your pitches as a starting pitcher, you have to go through the lineup maybe 2 or 3 different times. Is there a difference, you know, in the way you're thinking on how you go about trying to go through the lineup? On, can I use my fastball like I did in the minor leagues? Do I have to throw more off-speed pitches? Are you changing it all or making adjustments in that way? Or are you at the point where you're like, hey, I'm just going to go with what I went with at the minor leagues and see if it works up here first?
No, you're always trying to get better and add to your repertoire and make yourself a more dynamic pitcher. My biggest focus was getting my off-speed pitches better and better. I got a little taste of it last year that I relied on my fastball too much. So this offseason, developing a new slider, working on my curveball to make it more consistent and be a valuable weapon for me, and then really focusing on the changeup, because that's going to keep guys front to back on the off-speed pitches.
Zach, what's new about your slider this year?
It's just a different grip for me, and going out there, I throw quite a bit of them just to get those game reps in and get more comfortable with it and really understand the pitch more in a competitive standpoint rather than just a bullpen.
I don't know. I'm guessing you don't have a baseball out there, but we see on camera. Can you show us a little bit like what was the old grip versus what was the new grip on the slider?
The old grip, I was very tight with my fingers. New grip, I'm a little looser and trying to throw it like a football, and you know, it's kind of taken off from left to right for me, and you know, being able to kind of get that consistently in the same shape, and then to be able to get it where I want it to certain hitters is going to be the challenging part, and I think you saw a little bit of that today. I wanted to use it. I wanted to get good reps in with it, and I think I got some really good reps, some bad reps, but you got to learn from the bad ones and move on.
What about the changeup? You mentioned specifically about trying to get your changeup better, more consistent. As a guy who has to pitch multiple innings and maybe, again, going through the lineup 2 or 3 times, you feel that that's a really big pitch that you're going to need as a starting pitcher? Yeah,
and anything to keep these guys at this level off balance is going to be really beneficial and much needed. The changeup is an equalizer. You know, sometimes guys will backspin changeups, and it's so much look-alike their fastball that, you know, you kind of get guys out front and get some weak contact, and that's what I really need because, you know, hard contact. I got hit hard last year, and that's something that I want to limit as much as anyone else. So the changeup, I think, is going to be very beneficial for that purpose, and that's why I wanted to focus on it so much.
Zach, really fun to talk pitching with you, and we're excited to see what that new grip does and how your pitch mix looks this year, and really can't wait to watch you for a full season. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Zach Lowther, a couple of scoreless innings in his spring training debut.
That was great. I love that he showed us the new grip. I love the concept of throwing it like a football. That's not something I've heard much.
Yeah, you know, when I listen to some of these guys and all the instruction that they get now, I try to go back 30, 35 years ago and 40 years ago. And, you know, back when 82, when I first started in the minor leagues and didn't have a clue about what I was doing. And I just knew I wanted to get guys out, and I knew I wanted to kind of trick the batter somehow. There was no philosophy. There was not get ahead with the first pitch. I didn't have any statistics or any pitching coach telling me that, hey, you know, it's really important you get ahead with the first pitch. Here's the statistics on hitting, you know, if you get ahead strike 1 as opposed to get it, you know, behind 1-0 or 2-0. Holy moly.
Ryan McKenna high into left field. Duran at the wall. It is gone. It just kept traveling. Ryan McKenna with a rainbow shot to left for a 3-run home run. The Orioles' 3rd home run of the night. Good for a 7-4 lead.
Good little fastball down and in. He backlegged him right there. You might say it's a spring training home run, but in the statistical category, it won't show up that way. It's just a home run. So that was nice to see Ryan with the pop that he's shown. You know, he can run, obviously. He can do some different things, playing some different positions on the field. But that was a nice swing there as we see him backleg that ball out of the ballpark.
Had been just 1 for 10 to start his spring season, Ryan McKenna. And I think the Orioles are really going to love to see him turn on that fastball, because McKenna last year, you could tell, was a little bit slow with the bat speed at times. So the foot speed is amazing. The defense is great. Gets on base, sees a lot of pitches. Boy, you think about Ryan McKenna, if he can shorten the swing up, there's so many things that he does well.
Well, it's about putting the ball in play, like you said, using his speed. So we're not necessarily thinking that he's going to be a power guy at the big league level, but it is nice to show it every now and then.
Urias goes to the right side, and he is thrown out by Arauz. Urias, who had walked and homered, finally retired.
You know, finish my thought real quick on Lowther and the big league pitchers and pitchers in general. They have so much more information now than we had. And to be able to have that information and to be able to explain different things, take it in, it was nice that Zach was really looked like he understood what he did, what he had done, what was successful, what wasn't successful, and what he needed to do, and wasn't afraid to make adjustments and talk about it. So that was good to see, because these guys have the information. It's just a matter of what they do with it, and hopefully these guys are going to turn it into success.
Here's the first at-bat tonight for Gunnar Henderson. Couple of spring ABs so far. 20-year-old Gunnar Henderson, who was seen as one of the Orioles' brightest young stars in their minor leagues. One of the higher-ranked offensive prospects in baseball. Orioles #3 minor league prospect according to Major League Baseball, behind Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez. Very advanced hitter at just 20 years old. Last season, 105 games in the minors, OPS of .826, 17 homers, 16 for 18 as a base stealer. This is a young man I know folks are really excited to see. Don't know when the big leagues are going to come, but at 20 years old, already in Double-A, you know, who knows what year it is, but not terribly far away it seems. He's a player who really opened a lot of eyes last year. You know, he's still a little far away when you got the 86 and no name on your back, but the thought is this could be a special kid, and he's worked the count full here against a tough lefty in Diekman.
Well, 86 with no name on your back is better than being in minor league camp with,
right.
you know, or going over and sitting in the stands and watching your buddies that you played with last year, and they're in big league camp with an 86 on their back and no name. So, yeah, he's a guy that we're clearly looking to see a lot of good things from.
Good little bounce in his wrist there, but out in front for a foul ball. Henderson was the Orioles' second pick behind Adley Rutschman in the draft 3 years ago. 42nd overall pick, 2019 draft from Montgomery, Alabama. Turns 21 this June. And takes a called strike 3. But the Orioles get the lead right back. They've hit 3 home runs in 3 innings. First Mountcastle, then Arias, now Ryan McKenna trying to find himself a spot on the big league team. Tonight's ceremony of first pitch, Dr. Jennifer Jaso, the Sarasota County District Teacher of the Year. And we're going to call that one an inside corner strike. Dr. Jaso, thanks to her, thanks to all of the folks who've done such great work as teachers, particularly the last couple of years when their environment's been so tough. Orioles here in the 6th inning go back to the bullpen. Paul Fry, a left-hander, really had a tale of 2 seasons last year. Dave got off to a great start, ran into some major control issues at the end of the year, ended in AAA Norfolk, hoping to get his form back in 2022.
It was just really a strange season. I mean, Paul had been pretty darn consistent the last couple of years, and then was really good for the most 4.5 months of the season, and then all of a sudden he couldn't throw a strike. So look, guys lose that ability. It's weird. It happens, and then it can get in your head, and you just hope it doesn't get in his head, because to me it's easier to fix physical mechanics than it is to think about some of the negativity that can go on in the back of your head. And when you're thinking that you can't throw a strike, or you're feeling for the strike zone, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, Fry has such a good left arm, and he has one fouled away here against Rob Refsnyder. We're joined by Cedric Mullins now in the 6th inning, with the Orioles leading 7-4. Newly minted bobblehead king, Cedric Mullins. Cedric, thanks for being with us. Congratulations on the upcoming bobblehead day.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I got to see it. It was pretty cool. You know, the resemblance. I was like, wow, you know, it's going to be a fun time.
You appreciated the facial hair compared to yours on the bobblehead?
I did. I told him, I said, this guy has a better connecting beard than I do. So, yeah, that was pretty funny to watch or look at.
Hey, what was the reaction like when you found the bobblehead and you found out you had knocked the bat out of your bobblehead's hands?
Yeah, they said be gentle, and I tried, and the first thing I did was my finger just ran into it. And I really feel like it wasn't screwed in all the way. I think they were messing with me, but
I see.
I did feel bad when I took it out, and then I kind of slid it back in there, and I was like, it's not broken, is it? They're like, no, it does that. I said, okay, I felt pretty good.
Sometimes you got to let the bat go out of your hand, man. When you're running to first base after a home run, you hit a lot of those last year. You stole a lot of bases too. What was this offseason like for you? What'd you do?
Just tried to take what I did the previous year and, double it up. Stay intense during my workouts, trying to stay under control to make sure that I was coming into spring training healthy, and, just trying to make sure that my body was feeling good coming in.
Off the field, anything exciting for you this offseason?
Yeah, I did a lot of my stuff early. Went to Disney World with my fiance, and we had a good time there. We visited all the parks. We spent like a week and some change out there down in Orlando, and just kind of called it a vacation. And we came back up, moved to Atlanta, and just kind of settled in there.
Congratulations, by the way. I know you got engaged later in the year last year.
Thank you.
Important question, what's your favorite park at Disney? There is a right answer.
Oh, there is? Honestly, I gotta go with Animal Kingdom. Magic Kingdom's nice, and Epcot to me was decent, but I feel like Animal Kingdom's my go-to.
That's a great answer. The correct answer is Animal Kingdom during the day, Epcot at night. So
there you go. There you go.
You aced half of it. Well done.
Cedric, just a tremendous season last year, and you're able to do things that a lot of players that weren't able to do in this game for a long time, and it'd be really exciting for you. So going into the offseason, you know, you said you just kind of tried to double up on the things that you did before last year, and now coming in this year, do you feel the same? You feel more confident, or you just feel like, hey, I'm the same guy, I just need to go out and continue to build on what I did?
Yeah, that's kind of it. I feel like I'm coming in, trying to be the same dude, you know, put my best out there, you know. Early in the spring, we're playing games pretty quick, but I feel like I'm feeling pretty solid in the box. You know, it's just a matter of continuing to put the work in, and then the results will come after.
I know you had a great year last year, but I know you're a baseball player, and you're always looking to improve something. What do you want to improve this year? What's something specific you want to work on?
Just continuing to kind of stay within my zone. You know, trying to refrain from chasing certain pitches, and just staying in the strike zone and staying within what I can do damage with.
A couple of outs here picked up by Paul Fry. We're joined by Cedric Mullins. I know a lot of the same faces for you, but some new guys in the clubhouse as well, some veterans, some younger players. Who are the fun new guys in the clubhouse so far?
Still trying to get a feel for some of the guys. I know they're coming in from different organizations. They still might be getting a feel for, you know, our vibe as a clubhouse. I feel like we're pretty relaxed. We bring people in, try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So I'm just waiting for that one guy to really open up.
Before I let you go, I know you and Austin Hayes are very close. I know you two are very competitive with each other. Is there a goal that you two have? Is there a competition between you and Hazy set for this season?
We haven't set anything in stone yet, but we always like to chirp at each other, and just like you said, have that competition, that mindset, and that's what kind of drives us. We're constantly giving each other feedback on certain things, but at the same time, we're competing.
You should have taken him to Disney, see who could go around the test track faster.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that for the future.
Hey, say congratulations again on the great year. Looking forward to your bobblehead night in August, and really can't wait to watch you play more this year. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thank you very much, guys.
Cedric Mullins, 2021 All-Star starter. Maybe again in 2022. Just a great head on that young man's shoulders. Such a great maturity about him that we saw last year.
Yeah, I think that the way he was handling things, the success that he had, of course, we found out later on some of the other things that he was going through, you know, off the field that we didn't know about. And boy, he just didn't miss a beat. He just went out and did his job and focused. And you know, as we talked about, he did something last year that just not many guys in this game do. And for him to be able to do that as a guy, you know, kind of smaller stature, but the speed and the power that he showed, the consistency, stopping the switch hitting and being as successful as he was, that was exciting to see.
Yeah, he battled Crohn's disease last year. You mentioned some of the things he went through. Cedric talked about this last month. Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, and Cedric had to deal with some stomach issues last year. He kept it to himself. He said in part because, you know, Trey Mancini had gone through so much, he basically didn't want to take away from Trey's year. And then he went out and had a 30-30 season all the same. So feeling healthier this year, looks good again physically, and not lost, I think, what Cedric Mullins did last year. Trey Mancini, an inspiration, certainly with what he did, but Cedric, to get through that,
And then to have the year he did, remember a year ago, this was a guy who was just giving up switch hitting, seen as a fringe candidate to make the team. It was really special. I can't wait to see what he does for an encore.
Yeah, I mean, the giving up the switch hitting and to have the consistency and show the power that he did last year, that's crazy. And you mentioned the Crohn's disease and how mature and the type of character that he has, that he didn't want to step on any toe. He didn't want to take anything away from what Trey Mancini had gone through and what he was trying to do on his comeback. Yet here's a guy that was having the things that he was having to go through. That's really special.
High-level kind of guy, Cedric Mullins. Always good to talk with him. And he is out of the game after 3 at-bats tonight. Back-to-back situation here early in spring. Paul Fry looking for a 3-strikeout inning. Meanwhile, he got Refsnyder and Ramos both looking on strikes while we're talking to Ced. Working with Jonathan Arauz here in the 6th. Two. And a 2-out walk. But all lefties for the Orioles tonight. Bruce Zimmerman 2 innings, gave up a couple of homers, 3 runs. Zach Lowther a strong outing, 2 scoreless for him. Tanner Scott an inning, a couple of hits, allowed a run, got a strikeout. And now Paul Fry, the 4th Oriole pitcher, all lefties of the night. Nick Yorkie, pinch hitter for Boston. Now there's a good Boston name. You want to give me your best Nick Yorkie in a Massachusetts accent?
No, I'm not even going to try to do
try
that.
it? No.
I embarrass myself enough. I don't have to do that. But thanks for asking.
You're welcome. I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
We talked about the Baltimoreese and the Baltimore and all that a little bit. No, since you're now a Baltimorean.
Is that the official term? Is that the nomenclature?
Maybe not official,
yeah.
but since I'm from Baltimore,
right.
I threw that out
You
there.
can welcome me.
Yeah.
It's good to be a Baltimorean or Baltimorean officially, whatever it is. Thank you for the warm welcome. Fry to Yorkie. And that one gets away from the new catcher, Brett Cumberland. So a wild pitch thrown by Paul. Looking for consistency in his mechanics. As you mentioned, there were some mental struggles for Paul Fry. Said a couple of days ago that he felt like he was tipping his pitches against the Rays because the Rays hit Paul Fry like basically no team hit anybody else. And he was another candidate heading to the trade deadline that a lot of teams seem to have interest in. And then the season faded from there as Fry delivers a strike here. But you mentioned we've seen some really good years out of Paul Fry in the past. A couple of years ago, 2.45 ERA. His rookie year at a 3.35. Last year the strikeout numbers were great. The walk numbers just very high, 35 and 47 1/3. And a strike here to the pinch hitter Yorkie.
No, he had 16 walks, I think, in his last month that he pitched at the big league level. So that was just, it was crazy. It was very un-Paul Fry-like. So, and you mentioned it was a tale of 2 seasons for him. So I think that, to be able to right there on a 3-0 count and come back and throw 3 strikes in a row, that should give him a lot of confidence.
3 strikeouts in the inning for Paul Fry. Special night tonight at Ed Smith Stadium, the Orioles' annual All Faiths Food Drive. This began in 2011, so a decade of this food drive. More than 11,000 pounds of food, more than $10,000 in cash donations have been collected at spring training games. Last year, the Orioles partnered with All Faiths to hold 8 food distribution events at Ed Smith Stadium. Distributed a staggering total 166,320 pounds of food. That's about 140,000 meals, helping about 4,000 individuals. So thank you to all the folks down there for your great work in the community. Since 2011, more than 11,000 pounds of food, 10,000 in cash, helped a lot of folks out around Sarasota County.
Orioles on top of the Red Sox here in the 6th. Kevin Brown, Dave Johnson, Kelvin Gutierrez in there for his 3rd trip to the plate, facing the left-hander Matt Strahm.
Yeah, Strahm's been in the big leagues now about 4 or 5 years, maybe 6. And last year, of course, he was with San Diego. And the last 4 or 5 years, I guess, he was with San Diego. So he started in the past. He's been a starting pitcher with San Diego. He started 16 games in one season. But for the most part now, he's going to, looks like he'll probably transition to a reliever.
And he gets Gutierrez to pop out. So Kelvin, a good night, still sac fly in his 1st trip to the plate. Opposite field single in the 4th. Pop out here for Kelvin Gutierrez, who is trying to win the Orioles starting 3rd base job. And as Brandon Hyde said to us, he's penciling in Ryan Mountcastle at 1st, and that's it on the infield. So those other 3 spots are wide open. Here's the skipper. And here is the new catcher, Brett Cumberland. Cumberland was traded to the Orioles with today's starter, Bruce Zimmerman, back at the 2018 deadline. He's been in the Orioles minor leagues since then. 26 years old, hoping to make his big league debut this year. A season ago at Norfolk had an unusual batting line, Brett Cumberland, as he bats under the lights in the black sky in Sarasota. He got on base a ton, hit just 187, but his on base was 352. He walked 40 times in 84 games and was hit by 28 pitches. Look at the OPS, it's much higher than the average because this guy was a ball magnet. And here he takes a called strike 3. Was not a ball magnet there.
No, he didn't look like he was ready to swing the bat there. A couple fastballs on the outside part of the plate, and then that one right there on the inner 3rd and just threw it right by him. So it just kind of, sometimes you well-located pitch and it can freeze you. Of course, sometimes guys come up and they think, oh, okay, it's the big leagues now. There's a veteran out on the mound. He gets ahead of me. He's going to try to trick me with something, so I'm going to take this pitch. And he throws it right there on the inner half for strike, and you go back to the dugout going, I should have swung at that.
Terrin Vavra, good season in the minor leagues a year ago. Another player who gets on base a lot. We've seen Vavra in spring training a little bit. 1 for 8, does have 3 walks, so the Orioles are getting him some time. He's a new addition to the 40-man roster this offseason. Now there is going to be no Rule 5 draft this year. That's something that got lost in the shortening of the major league calendar. Vavra was one of the players the Orioles wanted to protect, adding him to the 40-man, thinking there would be a Rule 5 draft and thinking might be an attractive player to some other team. He walks a ton, Terrin Vavra, and you hope he can hit for maybe a little bit more power. You also would like him to hit lefties better. He's very good against righties. And there's a cute baby. Non sequitur, always good to have a cute baby. Non sequitur, I'd say. Two for Vavra. 5 home runs in the minors last year. He certainly could be in the mix at some point. Orioles played him a little bit in center field last year. Came up as an infielder. But now that he's on the 40-man, you'll likely see him get a little more defensive versatility. And Vavra's hit. Vavra just pulled a Cumberland. Here is the Orioles general manager Mike Elias working the phones on a Thursday night. What do you think Mike's texting about?
He might be calling in an order at one of his favorite restaurants or something.
Might be. Nobody knows how to work the phones quite like a general manager, whether it's trades or DoorDash. Really exciting year for Mike Elias and the Orioles. We mentioned some of the young players that we think will get some chance this year. Some chances. Adley Rutschman not going to make the opening day roster because of this tricep soreness. Well, Mike did not rule out that Adley would have made it if he'd been healthy. And there was certainly a lot of speculation about whether or not that would happen because of the service time rules. And we've seen teams wait to call up players because of service time considerations. There are some tweaks to that in the new CBA. You have to get a rookie of the year in the top couple. You have to get a certain number of the MVP. You can get that service time a year. It's not guaranteed at all, but in hearing Mike Elias and listening to he and Brandon Hyde, it sounded like the Orioles basically decided if Adley was ready, he was going to be here. Now, Mike has said, he said yesterday, Adley Rutschman could still be ready for AAA opening day, potentially April 5th. You're not going to rush him, obviously, but if he's healthy, it sounds like the Orioles want him up as soon as possible, and that is a really, really exciting thing.
It is, and you're talking about the #1 prospect in all of baseball, and having an opportunity to have that type of player get to the big league level. I thought it was a stretch, and I know Mike did say, look, if he's ready, and you know, we'll take him north, but I thought it was a stretch to some extent. Unfortunately, there was an injury. Fortunately, it's not anything that requires surgery, and by you know talking about how maybe he still could be ready to start the minor league season when they you know start at the AAA level. I don't think that's going to be the worst thing in the world, and let him go ahead and start at Norfolk, get ready, whether it's a couple of weeks or a couple months, and they feel he's ready and it's time to bring him to the big league level, then we'll get a chance to see him, but it'll happen this year.
Nevin with a half swing, 3-2 for him. There's still a lot that the Orioles can do as well. The group that you see here may not necessarily be the group in a couple of weeks, so whether he's ordering a wrap or not, Mike's got some moves we know in the hopper, especially as we get near the end of spring and teams start to clear out their 40-man rosters. Seen the Orioles be very active in late spring waiver claims in the past as Nevin works a 2-out walk.
Well, because this is a different type of spring, being a lot shorter than usual, there's going to be some guys that quite frankly just don't get a chance to prove what they can do and get that last look. Guys that are out of options with other clubs, and there'll be guys on the waiver wire that Mike is going to want to take a look at. Some younger guys, maybe guys that got to the big leagues quickly. Maybe they're with a club that is a more competitive club, and there's no room for that younger player at the big league level, yet they're out of options. So there's trades to be made. There's waiver wires considerations. So this is going to be an exciting time. I would believe that Mike probably wasn't ordering something from his restaurant or DoorDash or anything. That he's going to be working the phones, and it's going to be texting and calling and talking to a lot of other clubs and getting an idea of what's out there to be available for this club.
Jahmai Jones, the batter, to take strike one. Major League Baseball has had a different kind of free agent frenzy than I think we've ever seen these last couple of weeks, with the quick end to the lockout and the quick beginning of the baseball year. Still a lot of unsigned players out there. Orioles a couple of days ago brought back a couple of pitchers on minor league deals. Chris Ellis, Connor Green were signed a week ago, both with the Orioles last season. Chris Owings signed before that. Versatile infielder, he could make the team. Non-roster invitee to Major League Spring Training. Bo Taylor, who's the catcher tonight, was signed 5 days ago. And Robinson Chirinos was only signed 10 days ago. So there's still a lot of business to be done. And the Orioles obviously will have their pick of the litter with the waiver claims. They're going to have the #1 pick, had the worst record in the league by a tiebreaker last year. So somebody's on the waiver wire. The Orioles will get a shot to get that player, as they did with Jorge Mateo last year. Jones muscles one foul, still 1-2.
There's the problem with young clubs. You're trying to stockpile talent. And when you stockpile that talent, at some point you have to put them on the 40-man roster, even though they're not ready to come to the big league level. So as much as you want to have the opportunity to pick up some other teams' players that they don't have room for, you may not have room for them because you might have to give up on one of your players in order to clear a roster spot.
Makes it a big spring for somebody like Jones. 40-man player, impressed in the minors last year. Had a tough go of it when he was called up in the second half of the season. Just 149, no homers, 4 walks in 26 games. Well, you're on the 40-man right now. You got a shot. And the Orioles think Jones has improved defensively. They've liked his minor league bat. Off to a good start in spring. Can he maintain that for consistent regular season? Still just 24 years old, Jones, as he goes down swinging here against Strom. To the 7th we go on a jumbo dog kind of night in Sarasota. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of Oriole Park this season with $10 Utah Street bleacher seats. All games Monday through Thursday this year. You could be a Utah Street bleacher creature out in center field. You're right near Boobs. You're right near the roof deck. You're near the kids' corner. Great view of the action for only $10. All Monday to Thursday home games this year. Buy your tickets right now at Orioles.com/tickets. That sounds awesome. We got to get out to the bleachers for a game this year. Be amongst the people. Travis Lakins Sr. is the new pitcher here in the 7th inning for the Orioles. 5th Oriole pitcher today. And feeling healthy after a season ended with a stress fracture in the right elbow a year ago.
And he's done a nice job since coming to the Orioles the last, parts of the last 3 years. He's not an overpowering guy, but he will throw the ball over the plate, and he's had some success. So yeah, if you get over the injuries, and this game's a tough game, it's a grueling game, and you can't play at this level consistently if you're hurt. And yeah, sometimes just guys have little minor things, but it's really difficult to be successful here consistently if you got something bothering you, whether it's a little bit of a lat pull or you're just not feeling like your feet are under you really good, and some strong, you're not feeling strong. It can mentally can get to you. So Travis Lakins is a guy that the Orioles will lean on a little bit. He's kind of a little bit more of a kind of a veteran guy here with this vet Orioles team, and I think that if he can show that he's healthy, he throws the ball over the plate, he gets guys out.
Got Rafaela out right there for the first. Good news for Lakins. He said it was the same injury that he's had in the past. 2016-17 had dealt with that as well. He was hurt in a start against Houston last year. His only start of the year, got hurt in the 2nd inning. And he thought it was Tommy John surgery. That was his initial reaction. Couldn't grip his fist on his right hand. But he said it was a pretty easy rehab period. He's lost about 20 pounds. Outrighted off the 40-man roster at the end of the year, but cleared waivers, has stayed in the organization. This ball is grounded foul by Mayer and out of play.
Yeah, I was surprised that when he was outrighted, because I thought that he was one of the consistent guys out of the bullpen, and he wasn't a guy that was used a lot, but when he was used, he did the job. And then when they outrighted him, I guess they thought that maybe somebody wouldn't pick him up. It's a way to grab a roster spot. Of course, at that time, when you do that, you think somebody may grab somebody in the Rule 5. They haven't had the Rule 5. They're not going to do the Rule 5 now because of the CBA and everything. So maybe he's a guy that can find his way back on the roster here at the end of the spring training, knowing that he's not one of the younger guys that they have to push and take a risk on. And if he shows that he's healthy, we could see him in Baltimore.
He's a good young player right now. Marcelo Meyer, who was the 4th pick in the draft a year ago for the Red Sox. 19-year-old shortstop. East Lake High School, Chula Vista, California. He was a 4th overall pick in the 2021 draft. And Lakins puts him on. Orioles have made some defensive changes here in the 7th inning. Ryland Bannon's now in at second base. Patrick Dorian has come on to play third. Orioles also have Robert Newstrom in the game in left. Ryan McKenna goes from left to right. So all of the starters are now out of the game. Had what looked like something close to an opening day lineup in there as Matthew Lugo bats for Boston. And now the kids get to take over in the back half of the game. Lugo muscles one over Bannon and into right. And Myers showing off his athleticism. Looked like he had a helmet glued to the back of his hair there for a moment, and eventually flops off as he goes first to third on a base hit from Lugo.
Yeah, good read there by a young player. You talked about being 19 years old, but he's going to second base on a little looper here to second and realizes that the ball's not hit real hard and that he's going to go ahead and take a chance on go to third base on that.
Sox will go into their bench for Ronaldo Hernandez batting for Plawecki. Zimmerman, Lowther, Scott, Fry, and now Lakins for the Orioles tonight. 1-1. Expectation is we may also see Connor Green in one of the last couple of innings. Different kind of spring training, as Brandon Hyde said. A lot of these pitchers were in warmer weather areas, but not all of them. Try to ramp up without getting hurt leading into the year. I think that's one of the big concerns for teams, and Major League Baseball and the Players Association did this week agree on 28-man expanded rosters to begin the year. And as you heard earlier in the game, it's 99% likely that the Orioles are going to use those extra spots to get a couple of extra arms in. As Brandon Hyde said, he thinks at most starters will go 5 innings to begin the year because of the short ramp up to the season. Probably a lot of piggyback situations for the Orioles as well. You could see a starter go 3 or 4. Somebody like a Lowther come into the game, go 2 or 3 behind him as well. Might have some extra long relievers on the team.
Yeah, I think some of those bullpen slots could go to guys who can give you 3 or 4 innings.
That's a foul tip for a strike.
And that's a good thing in this situation, Kevin, because if you have guys like a Lowther and some of the other younger starting pitchers, whether it's a Zimmerman, if he's not in the rotation and he makes the club maybe as a long guy, and as you start piggybacking some guys, you got a guy going 4 innings, you got somebody else going 4 innings. Now all of a sudden you're saving those shorter guys in the bullpen.
Hernandez to third, could be 2. Dorian gets 1 and Bannon another. Dorian, Bannon, and Nevin combine for the 5-4-3 double play, and it's a scoreless 7th for Travis Lakins. Opening day is 18 days away up here in Camden Yards. The Bird's going to be traveling north shortly after we make some fans, take some photos down here in Sarasota. April 11th, Orioles Brewers. Tickets on sale now for the home opener. Rokazu Sawamura is the new Boston pitcher and the 7th.
Yeah, had a pretty good year for the Red Sox last year. 5-1 with the ERA of 3.06. Pitched in 55 games, all in relief for them. Of course, he's a veteran pitcher of professional baseball. Pitched a long time for the Yomiuri Giants in the Japanese League.
He'll face new corner outfielder Robert Newstrom.
25-year-old Newstrom ropes one into right field. A base hit for the non-roster invitee, Robert Newstrom.
Gets a little center cut fastball and just rips it right into right field. Looked like he was just taking batting practice. Head down on it, good back leg, right through.
You sound like a hitting coach.
I've heard other people say this stuff before.
Newstrom's first hit of the spring, he was 0 for 8. Player the Orioles really like. Robert Newstrom was a hard cut from the 40-man roster this offseason. The Orioles did not add Newstrom, which made him Rule 5 eligible, but as we just mentioned, there is no Rule 5 draft. It's 25-year-old outfielder. Hit the ball well last season between Bowie and Norfolk. 31 doubles for Newstrom, 16 homers, 790 OPS in 126 games. Good eye, a little bit of speed. And he was acknowledged as one of the more difficult omissions. Somebody the Orioles thought they might lose in the Rule 5 draft. Now, the bad news is without the Rule 5, the Orioles don't get that #1 pick. They don't get their choice of other organizations. The good news, they feel like they can hang on to Newstrom and a couple of other guys who didn't make the cut.
Yeah, Mike Elias talked about it. I think he felt that he may lose more than they would take.
Right. So in the long run, maybe not a bad thing. And Newstrom's somebody who could, with another good year, work his way into the outfield picture. Ryan McKenna could not hold up. Strike 2 for him. McKenna launched a sky-high fly ball his last time that just kept carrying out into the picnic area and left. 3-run home run for Ryan. His first home run of the spring. Orioles have hit 3 home runs tonight. Mountcastle in the 3rd, Urias in the 4th, and McKenna in the 5th. You know, the deep left field here at Camden Yards behind us is going to help pitchers the most. I think it's going to help Ryan McKenna too, because his chances of making this team, especially with expanded rosters, you figure probably go up, because you're going to need some more defensive cover in left field right now. And on days when Austin Hayes isn't playing, this would be a very good secondary choice in Ryan McKenna.
Well, there's no doubt there's more room to cover out there. So you can't stick a lumbering guy out there in left field anymore. You got to have somebody who can run a little bit. And if you talked about Hayes, if he can stay healthy, which has been a problem for him, but if he can stay healthy, we'll see him out there a lot. But yeah, McKenna's a guy that can fill in on multiple positions. He can give a guy like Cedric Mullins a break every now and then, and the other 2 outfielders as well. So there's, you know, this is our first kind of look at that kind of finished product there at Camden Yards, and there's definitely some room and some angles out there too that are a little different than people when they first get a peek at it once the season starts, whether it's on TV here at Masson or at the ballpark here at Camden Yards. It's a little difference. Yeah,
I'm excited for folks to see it. It's going to be maybe more of a triples ballpark now out in left field. Interesting to see how it will play. You know, for a player like Ryan Mountcastle, maybe the home run numbers won't dip too much because of the raw power, but a lot of right-handed hitters, home and away, are going to find themselves in a different situation. A fly ball out to left center, and for Orioles pitchers, that is a welcome thing, because there were a lot of those 366-foot wall scrapers we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, no more line drives to the first or second row. Those are going to be outs, or they may be a double with one hop off the wall.
McKenna 90 games in the big leagues last year. Newstrom on the run, and Ryan a little bit out in front. Another well hit ball. In the 5th inning, this well hit ball stayed fair. McKenna only a couple of home runs in the big leagues last year. Did hit 11 though in AAA in 27 games.
So he has some pop. Brandon Hyde talked about the pop time and again last year. It didn't show up much in his first year in the majors. Maybe it will in year 2. Against a bona fide back-end big leaguer here in Sawamura. McKenna will take ball 4. Throw through anyway, just in case.
Kind of odd. I don't know why he would throw through in that situation after having to kind of double pump a little bit, but he did make the throw anyway. McKenna was able to hold up and take the ball.
To Ronaldo Hernandez, the new catcher. Throwing through to the second baseman. By the way, I regret to inform you that the Red Sox infielder is Nick York, not Nick Yorkie, as we mistakenly said earlier. And
well,
check off the free space on the bingo card. It's spring training for the broadcasters too. There it is.
I'm glad I didn't give it a go with my best Bostonian accent.
That's right. That's right. You knew. You knew somewhere in your soul. You knew that it was just York.
The spring training games.
What number did you wear in spring training? That's what I want to know.
Well, you know what? it was interesting. It took me so long to get to spring training.
107.
My first
NA.
Actually, I got to the big leagues before I ever went to a big league spring training.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I did not go to my. I led the AAA the year before. In '86. I led the league in earned run average and did not get an invite as a non-roster guy or get put on the roster for that matter after doing that in my 6th season. So I ended up, or my 5th season, and I ended up getting called to the big leagues in '87, and they gave me 56.
That's pretty low for the first number.
I went up. They sent me right back down, took me off the roster. So I went back. I went to the big league camp the next year as a non-roster guy, and had 56.
Yeah, 56. That's not bad.
Yeah, wasn't. Yeah. You'll take any. You'll take any number. You don't really care
whether it's an integer or not.
It doesn't matter. It could. You know what? If I was the first guy with a 4-digit number on my back, I'd be that's just fine.
Put a zip code on there.
You can do whatever you want.
21224 Johnson.
The old saying is, if you got a uniform on, you got a chance.
That's right. Time called here. Rylan Bannon is the Oriole batter. First at bat of the game for Bannon, I believe, is now the final Oriole to bat in this game. We've seen 9 reserves come in for each of the 9 starters. Actually, Patrick Dorian has yet to bat as well. He's a couple of batters away too. Interesting season for Bannon last year. He really did not hit that well. 84 games in Norfolk, just 177 and a 297 on base. Did have a strained oblique, but still a very tough year. However, at the end of the season, he turned into Babe Ruth. He had a 10 home run span in 10 games in August. 18 RBIs in that grouping. For Rylan to be more consistent start to this season as Sawamura strikes him out.
Sometimes guys have injuries, and they're smaller injuries that you can kind of feel like you can play through, and then all of a sudden, sometimes they get a little worse, or sometimes you realize at some point, you know what, I can't play through this. And I mentioned that it's really difficult to play at that highest level when you're hurt. It's hard to play there when you're not, so even more so when you're hurt. And that's just one of the things guys have a tendency, especially when they're younger. Oh, I can play through this, or hey, I don't want to lose my spot, so I'm going to go out there, and hopefully in a couple days or a couple weeks, you know, it'll kind of subside. And typically that doesn't happen, because the more you play, usually it kind of has a tendency to stay the same or get worse.
Especially after a lost year in 2020, it's almost like we need another full year of evidence for a lot of these players, for those that struggled and for those that perform well.
Well, guys have bad years, and that's some of the tougher things that you know, guys in charge of player personnel have to decide, who you keep, who you don't. Well, this guy had terrible numbers. Well, it wasn't normal. We just went through 2.5 years of not normal things.
Right.
So how do you judge them based on such a routine type activity? And then you get out of that routine and they fail, and you almost want to say, well, of course they did.
Gunnar Henderson's smoke swing foul.
No, of course, some guys will have success. Some guys will work through it. It won't affect them as much. But that is the thing that they have to make those tough decisions on, because the years of service continue to go on. And you only have so many years where you look at these guys and you get a chance. And that's why you'll see many guys that have a lot of years at the big league level, not with the team they originally signed with. And it's not always necessarily because they got traded. It's because they kind of ran out of time with that first team that signed them, and at some point in time they make a decision and that player goes elsewhere and becomes the player that team thought they were going to be. But they're doing it with a different team.
Henderson, a player who really did impress after the lost year 2020, was at the alternate site for part of that year. Reports on him were good, and then took it into games last season and really played well. Become one of the Orioles' most prized young players. Shortstop tonight. Has played some third as well. Working on Sawamura here. Good test for him. And Henderson goes down on that pretty nasty splitter.
Yeah, that splitter doesn't drop a lot, but it comes out of his Sawamura's hand like a fastball. It goes down just enough to get below the plane of the bat. I mean, he throws that thing hard, and that's a tough pitch. You can see why this guy's been successful for a long time in Japan, and then comes right to the big leagues in his first season with the Red Sox. Throws up a ERA of 3.06. That's not easy to do, especially pitching in the American League East.
So Patrick Dorian's first at bat, another player who opened some eyes in the minors last year with some good power. Dorian has played everywhere on the infield. Another player who was not added to the 40-man roster this offseason, and again, that may be a blessing in disguise because Dorian did not have the chance to be selected by another team. Orioles liked him, one of their candidates for a 40-man spot. 69 walks in the minors last year, 22 home runs in 116 games. Some swing and miss, but a very nice season for him in terms of seeing the ball, in terms of power, versatility in the infield. Feels like we talked about that with a lot of these guys today. Nevin and Vavra and Henderson and Dorian. A lot of Orioles minor leaguers, a lot of young players in this game that can play 2, 3, 4 different positions. Look at a team like the Rays, that's where they thrive. It seems like everybody can play 4 spots on the field, and the Orioles have started to build that in more and more with their player development approach.
Yeah, the tough thing on the 40-man, a lot of people don't realize that affects these players financially on the minor league salaries. You get to be on the 40-man roster, and then you get second year on the roster. Those minor league salaries are very significant differences compared to, you're making your $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month, in A-ball and Double-A, as opposed to all of a sudden now you get $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. It's a big difference.
The ball gets away from Hernandez. Runners will move up. Rooster to third, McKenna to second. That's why you're still doing games with me. You're still trying to work off your minor league salary.
There you go. Still making the minimum. minor league minimum. I'm a minimum kind of guy.
Or it's all the money that, you just poured into your new house. That's it, too. I'm glad to have him.
Well, fortunately.
Nice to see you again.
Fortunately, I don't have that house payment anymore. That's Steve's problem.
That's all on him. He pitched for long enough. He can deal with it. 2-2 for Dorian. First at bat of the game against Sawamura, who struck out the last 2. And a chopper to the right side will be foul. Could be a multi-inning kind of night for Travis Lakins. Nobody is up in the Oriole bullpen at the moment. Orioles did stretch out Lakins at the end of the season last year. Trying to get him a little bit more insurance. It's been a good offensive night for the Oriole Bats. Their 7th game of spring training 2022. There's a called strike 3 to Dorian, though, and a good job by Sawamura. 3 strikeouts in the inning. Orioles lead it with 6 outs to go. Read the Orioles Spring Training Magazine, whether you're in Sarasota or not. It's available online at Orioles.com/spring magazine. Stories about Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, plus some getting to know you rapid Q&As. Tyler Wells, Austin Hayes, and John Means, among others. Got to learn a little bit about John Means from the Q&A. We learned that John's go-to karaoke song is "Take Me Home, Country Roads" by John Denver. John Means, of course, a graduate of West Virginia University, pitched at West Virginia. Mountain Mama. Question is, Dave, what's your go-to karaoke song?
That's a tough one, Kev. I have so many to pick from.
And follow-up, will you do a verse of it when you make your selection?
Oh, I'm sure we're going to have time for that. Everybody at home, you just stand by.
On the ground to Gunnar Henderson. And a pinch hitter, Cameron Cannon, is out. Cannon retired by Gunnar.
Well, you know I was a Jay and the Americans fan.
I do know that, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Come a little closer.
Come a little closer. Caramia.
Come a little bit closer, I should say. I don't want to omit a word. Travis Lakins, 2nd inning. Lakins still working his way back from that injury. Orioles want to see him stretched out. A broken bat flare here, and a good play by Bannon, backtracking it into right.
Got in that kitchen, exploded that bat. Travis throws a lot of cutters. Sometimes they don't cut, they stay inside a little bit. Sometimes the hitters will see that spin or anticipate the ball. For a guy who maybe throws a lot of sliders or a lot of cutters or anticipating the ball going away, they dive in a little bit, that ball backs up. When we say back up, basically it's got the spin that it's going to break, but it's just not tight enough, and it doesn't break, and it kind of stays inside. Ends up jamming some guys. So you make a bad pitch that ends up fooling the hitter a little bit, and they jam themselves.
Yeah, cutter has been the big pitch for Travis. 3 years in the big leagues as Nicholas Northcutt takes a Northcutt out to center, gone. A home run for Nicholas Northcutt to slice the lead to 7-5.
Yeah, that was a cutter, and that started on the inside corner of the plate, came right back to the inner half. And you see this ball here, just comes right back, so he puts a good swing on it. Doesn't try to do too much other than throw those hips and the hands right to the ball. The ball carries a long way out of center field.
Lakins allowed 4 home runs a season ago, 28 innings. First one here as Izzy Wilson bats for the Red Sox. Red Sox have taken a very young team with them on the road tonight, as teams will often do in spring. Wilson born in 1998. Just turned 24 this year. See if Lakins can get through 2 innings. Saw the left-hander Nick Vespi up in the bullpen a few moments ago. Got a piece of a tailing changeup, Wilson. Vespi ready if needed. Out of the Oriole bullpen, maybe to end the 8th inning, maybe to throw the 9th. And it's still very much audition time around these parts. 28-man roster, expected to be an expanded pitching staff for the Orioles this year. Lakins hoping to fight his way on it. Comes back after the strikeout. 2 innings for Travis Lakins, and the Orioles lead it. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Orioles. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Orioles. The first disclaimer of 2022. Good to shake that one off. No disseminations, please. Kevin Brown, Dave Johnson, our Masson crew can't wait for a great year of Orioles baseball with you this season. Opening day, April 8th at Tampa Bay. The home opener, April 11th, Monday afternoon, the Orioles and the Milwaukee Brewers. Good to see you all out at the park here. New left field wall at Camden Yards. Should be an exciting season for the Orioles with some of these young players making their way up to the big leagues to start. Many others that'll be there as the months go on. New pitcher for the Red Sox is Cutter Crawford. What do you think he throws?
He's got a little funkiness to his delivery, but made his major league debut last year. Pitched 1 game, 1 start for the Red Sox. Didn't go so well. 2 innings and 5 runs. 16th rounder for the Red Sox back in 2017.
And he does throw a cutter. That's your name.
I think everybody does now. Right?
But yeah, but if that's your name,
yeah,
I mean, you have no choice.
So if your name's Cutter,
some aspiring parents should really name their son Knuckleball.
or maybe more
Knuckleball Johnson,
or maybe more to the point, Knucklehead. But anyway, you know, if you throw cutters because your name's Cutter, you know, I had a little thing when I pitched. I was a sinker baller,
right? And
I always used to say, well, you have to eat them to throw them, and we used to call donuts sinkers. So I would go by the, you know, on Sunday mornings mostly on the day games, you'd have a box of donuts or 2, and I would always make sure that I passed by that box multiple times. Pick up a couple sinkers, and they'd be like, "Oh, what are you eating all those sinkers?" Like, got to eat them to throw them. So the whole cutter thing, yeah, I get it. I get the cutter thing.
So if you had instead,
you know what? First of all, I see your mind is going in 1,000 different directions.
I'm just saying, like, if you had decided to refer to protein shakes as sinkers, maybe you'd still be pitching, Dave. Darren Vavra in the right field. He's on base for the 2nd time tonight.
There may be something to that, Kevin.
Yeah. It's the kind of stuff you get with experience.
Yes.
Wisdom with age. A good night for Vavra. Hit by a pitch his first time and a rocket single here.
Yeah, it looked like a breaking ball. It kind of stayed up a little bit in the zone, but he waited back on it. A little soft line drive, but it was a soft line drive in the right spot, just out of the reach of the second baseman.
Hoping we'll see Darren Vavra this year. Excited to see what he can do if given a big league chance on the 40-man roster. So that means he's just 1 call away. Obviously, when you're on the 40-man roster, you can immediately be recalled. If you're a non-roster player, of course, someone has to be taken off the 40-man for you to get on it.
Which I feel is a bad rule in Major League Baseball.
You do?
Yeah. I understand the protection list and the Rule 5 and the 40-man roster limits and all that stuff. But I think it really goes against the players to where, you know, you're in AAA and you're tearing it up, but your 40-man roster is full, and they would like to bring you up. If, in other words, if everything was equal, they would bring you up. But instead, they're going to bring the guy up who's just got, you know, pitched terrible the last 3 games in a row because he's on the 40-man roster, and they don't want to lose him.
There's Nevin beating one into the ground at third base, and Tyler Nevin thrown out.
So I think during the season, you have no 40-man. You use your whole system. You bring them up. You still use options. In other words, you just can't bring guys up and down at will. They're trying to fix the whole option thing now with the new CBA. But you still have options. You can only be used and brought up and down a certain amount of times throughout the course of your career or whatever. But once the season starts, to me, they should open it up to where bring up the best player that they feel is ready to come up and do the job without them having to designate somebody for assignment during this season. At some point during the offseason, they would have to do that.
There's Jahmai Jones splitting the gap in right center. A run-scoring hit for Jones to bring in Vavra. And Jahmai Jones is on with a double. A fired-up Jones hoping to make a strong spring training impression. Boosts the Oriole lead back to 3.
Well, it's important for some of these guys that are getting these looks in these ball games, and it might be the 7th or 8th inning of a spring training game, but it's real to these guys every chance they get to swing the bat or make a pitch or make a play.
I want to ask you, because you just brought up options. A lot of new rules in the new collective bargaining agreement. One of them is a rule regarding options. A player on the 40-man roster gets sent to the minor leagues. It's called you're being optioned. You're recalled if you're brought up from the 40-man. You're optioned if you're sent down. New rule, you can option a player up to 5 times in a season. If you try to option somebody a 6th time, that player then gets placed on waivers and is then freely available to try and limit some of the roster churn that we've seen, especially with relievers the past few years. There are 83 players, according to an article in Athletic, that were optioned more than 5 times in 2021. Do you think that's a good rule? Do you like that option limit?
I'd have to see it played out, but that's another thing, though, that could keep a player in the minor leagues. Because what happens if they've optioned you 4 times? And they need to bring up a pitcher, but they know this pitcher's only coming up for a game or 2. Well, now they don't bring you up because they don't want to option you and use your 5th, or in this case sometimes the 6th option, where they have to go through waivers. So now it freezes that player in the minor leagues because they know that, well, we can't bring him up because when we option him, he'll have to clear waivers. So I don't like it, to be honest with you. I just think, again, it's another situation where a team has to decide not who should we bring up, but whether we bring this guy up and lose him or not.
Orioles have the lead. We'll go to the 9th. Three outs left for the Orioles to collect outside of beautiful Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. Spring training game number 7. Still a couple more weeks of spring training. Yourself down to Florida, bask in the warm weather, bask in the spring training baseball before the Orioles head north. Marcos Duplan will hope to close it out, coming off a pretty good rookie year for the O's.
Yeah, he actually, when you look at his per innings pitch, he did a really nice job. He did, you know, he only walked, when you talk about, you know, walks in general, I mean, he did walk 15 batters. That's too many. But when you give up less hits than innings pitch, that does afford you the opportunity to have some free passes in there. But I think that overall numbers, you know, getting that opportunity for the first time to be at the big league level, I think he showed well, and hopefully he can, you know, take that experience that he had last year and go forward with it.
Orioles have used 6 pitchers tonight. 3 of the first 5 through 2 innings. Zimmerman and Lowther to start. Lakins the 7th and 8th. Scott in the 5th and Fry in the 6th. Lowther probably the most impressive. 2 scoreless innings, struck out 3. Paul Fry did strike out 3 in his 6th inning as well. Lakins gave up a home run and a 2-inning stint. And Duplan gets a ground ball foul. .450 was the ERA for Marcos Duplan last season. Not on the 40-man roster. Outrighted after the year. And the Orioles re-signed him to a minor league deal November the 18th. A ground ball to Gunnar Henderson. His defense has been good tonight. Henderson with the first out in the ninth.
I mean, that does show where the Orioles are in that situation where Lakins, they know what he can do at the big league level. You know, not necessarily a huge sample size, but over a couple of years, he showed that he can be successful. What DePlan did last year in his rookie season, he showed well. But these are guys that they designated for assignment. They stayed in the organization, which was nice because I think they see the opportunities here. But, you know, the roster spots are so important, and especially when you have some of the younger guys, younger than, say, these guys that we're talking about, specifically with Lakins and DePlan, that, yeah, it's tough to stay, you know, in the big leagues and stay on the roster if you're not lighting it up, so to speak, where normally, you know, 5-6 years ago, these are guys that would have stayed on the roster and been with the club for sure, but they got some of these young prospects, the #1 organization in the minor leagues. They got to protect some of these guys.
And we heard Brandon Hyde say it to us. He feels like there's more right-on-right bullpen depth this year. Brian Baker, who's a 6'6", hard-throwing righty, was a waiver claim for the Blue Jays, a pitcher they really like. Orioles had Joey Crable added to the roster late in the year last year from Tampa Bay. Hard-throwing right-hander. He pitched well as well. They're both on the 40-man roster. So they feel like the Orioles that there's a little bit more bullpen depth. And somebody like DePlan, who was at times a reliable middle to late inning guy last year, is now trying to get his way back onto the expanded roster. Rafaela sends one to the track, and McKenna tracks it down. The Orioles are 1 out away from a W. Orioles 40-man roster right now, by the way. 23 pitchers. Probably that number will have to go down a little bit. They don't have a second catcher on the 40 right now. But there are a lot of guys bidding for a lot of spots on this team. And I feel like the pitching depth in the organization has increased since Mike Elias and company took over. Maybe some small increases at parts, making gains on the margins, but they think there are some better pieces in place. And maybe this is the year you see Grayson Rodriguez. Maybe the year you see D.L. Hall, who was added to the 40-man this offseason, too. 0-2. And we'll do it again.
No, I think what they'd like to do is when you bring those guys up, that you don't do the up and down, up and down, up and down. It's one thing to come, you know, bring a guy up. He might pitch a game or two, and you get sent back down, and then you bring him up. But that whole shuttle that they've been doing over the last 4 or 5 years, I think they want to not do that with these younger guys.
And a good outing for DePlan to try to bolster his case. He strikes out the first-rounder Meyer. The Orioles are 8-5 winners. We'll wrap it up from Sarasota next. Well, we got to talk Orioles baseball with you all tonight. That makes the final score almost irrelevant, doesn't it? But it was a good final score. The Orioles with 3 home runs and an 8-5 win over the Red Sox. Our next Masson spring training game on Wednesday, the Rays and the O's coverage begins at 1 o'clock. Tonight's telecast has been a Masson presentation. Remember, for the latest scores and stats, Orioles coverage 24/7 on MassonSports.com and the Masson app. For Dave Johnson, our entire crew, Kevin Brown saying so long and good night.